Chapter 4599. Back at the Longwu Fortress. Kong Shinmu used the instant magic ring to travel through the void. This time, he used the power of the black concealing dragon stone to hide the aura of the instant magic ring from the starting point and destination point. The black concealing dragon stone could not only hide them, but the 320 invisibility battle runes could also hide certain auras. For example, this time, Kong Shinmu had come in handy. Otherwise, when the Talisman Water Tribe found out about the death of the lady, they would definitely link the murderer to the Void Human Tribe geniuses from the last time. The two deaths were from the Void Human Tribe and the Talisman Water Tribe respectively. There were not many tribes that were enemies of these two tribes at the same time, so the scope of investigation would be greatly reduced. Therefore, Kong Shinmu could not leave any clues behind this time. After returning to the surroundings of the Longwu Fortress, Kong Shinmu and the other four removed their divine dragon forms and returned to the Emperor Shi Dragon Martial Academy office in the Longwu Fortress under the concealment of the black concealing dragon stone. This time, they had gained a lot, but Kong Shinmu was seriously injured. His divine dragon form had been cut into three by the Talisman Water Tribe lady's final 1000 water ripple slash. To an ordinary dragon martial artist, he would have died. This was because in such a situation, the loss of divine dragon essence blood was too serious. To a dragon martial artist, divine dragon essence blood was the foundation of cultivation. Once the loss of divine dragon essence blood was too serious, not only would it seriously affect their strength, but their lives would also be in danger. As for Kong Shinmu, it was still fine. His devouring power could devour all kinds of energy to recover. This time, his divine dragon body had been cut into three parts. Other than the dragon tail, which could be discarded and regrown, the other two parts could be reconnected. After devouring a total of 3 upper-level Devil General's Devil Cores, Kong Shinmu's injuries had finally recovered by the time he returned to the Longwu Fortress. At least he did not look so miserable. After removing his divine dragon form, he could be considered a complete person. The admiration in Liang Zhao's heart towards Kong Shinmu's tenacious vitality was simply like a surging river, continuous and unending. He was truly too formidable. He was chopped into 3 pieces and still didn't die. This Kong Shinmu was simply too terrifying. Fortunately, he was on the same side as Kong Shinmu. If he had an enemy like Kong Shinmu as an opponent, he would probably have nightmares at night. By the time Kong Shinmu returned to the interior of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy, his injuries had almost recovered. This time, he was almost killed on the spot. It could be said that it was the most serious injury he had ever suffered. His injuries. However, he still managed to survive and devoured a total of 3 superior Devil General's Devil Cores. One had to know that these demonic cores were left behind for him by the little princess of the demon god race, Xueqi. Every time he used one, he would have one less. To him they were considered precious. Even in terms of guardian points, the value of these 3 high-ranked demon generals' demonic cores was quite high. Of course, it naturally could not be compared to the benefits of killing the Talisman Water Race woman. After all, that was a true member of the Talisman Water Race. As for the demonic cores of the demon generals, they only represented the void demonic creatures and were slaves of the demon god race. Hence, their value was not even 1/10 of the demonic cores. To Kong Shinmu and the others, this was a huge gain. The lives of a total of 4 Talisman Water Race clansmen could be exchanged for how many guardian points? Of course, the most important thing now was to first ensure that Kong Shinmu was alright. After all, he was so seriously injured this time. Just looking at him made people tremble in fear. Although Kong Shinmu said that he was fine, they were really too worried. They were afraid that Kong Shinmu would make the slightest mistake. To them, not only could Kong Shinmu bring them more guardian points and cultivation resources, but more importantly, Kong Shinmu was their friend. Moreover, Kong Shinmu was injured this time because he was fighting the Talisman Water Race woman alone. If not for Kong Shinmu, they would not have been able to kill the Talisman Water Race woman at all. Although they had played a role in restraining her, at the end of the day, they were not in danger themselves. Even if Kong Shinmu died in battle, they could have just turned around and fled in their concealed state. Of course, if Kong Shinmu had really been killed, they would not have turned around and fled. Even if they died in battle, they would not have let Kong Shinmu die alone on the battlefield. You don't have to worry about me. Submit these 4 profound hearts and exchange them for guardian points. Quickly increase your strength. Kong Shinmu handed the 4 profound hearts to Xiao Yuhua and said, "Although my injuries this time are serious, it is nothing to me. Not only am I fine now, but my divine dragon tyrant body art has also improved a lot." Kong Shinmu was speaking the truth. Therefore, Xiao Yuhua and the others were too embarrassed to continue looking at Kong Shinmu. They could only leave the courtyard and look for Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy mentor, Linghu Dai. Now that their ranks were a little high, mainly because the rewards they obtained every time they went out were too shocking. Therefore, they could only look for Linghu Dai. Below Linghu Dai, ordinary Dragon Emperor mentors were not qualified to receive such spoils of war. This was because the spoils of war from killing the people of the 9 great clans had to be communicated with the clan backing the Dragon Martial Academy. In the entire Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy, apart from Yu Yaji, only Linghu Dai was qualified to contact the clan backing the academy. After Xiao Yuhua and the others left, Kong Shinmu did not hesitate. Instead, he made a prompt decision and began to digest the insights he had obtained this time. It had to be said that being in a life-and-death situation could indeed allow one's cultivation to improve by leaps and bounds. Kong Shinmu had been too seriously injured at that time, but now that his injuries had recovered, the effects were apparent. The strength of the divine dragon tyrant body art had actually improved after he reached the heaven tier. This was because Kong Shinmu had previously exchanged for a rising dragon marrow. By devouring the energy within, he could cultivate another dragon martial technique to a level beyond the peak of the heaven tier. He had chosen this divine dragon tyrant body art. Now that the divine dragon tyrant body art was finally making progress towards the saint tier, if it could reach the next level, Kong Shinmu's strength would definitely soar. Unfortunately, he had just broken through to the peak of the heaven tier not long ago. He was destined to have a long way to go before he could break through to the saint tier. However, this time around, he had continuously used the movement dragon martial technique, the wind shadow flowing cloud flash. In the process of dodging the water tribe woman, he had a considerable understanding and improvement. Originally, his wind shadow flowing cloud flash had been cultivated to the earth tier, but now, it was making progress towards the dragon tier. And this was also because he had devoured the energy of Linghu Dai. That energy contained too much understanding of the void. After all, it was the wind shadow flowing cloud flash that had been cultivated to the extreme saint tier. Therefore, Kong Shinmu's wind shadow flowing cloud flash had also made a qualitative leap. This battle was an opportunity. Chapter 4600. In this battle with the talisman Xueqi woman, Kong Shinmu discovered that although he could use the wind shadow flowing cloud flash to dodge, there was still a fatal flaw in this dragon martial skill. That was, he was unable to dodge continuously. Although it was very easy for Kong Shinmu to dodge, he couldn't keep using this move. Originally, he could only use the wind shadow flowing cloud flash once in the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. However, in this battle, he didn't have to wait for that long before he used it again. This was because he had devoured Linghu Dai's comprehension of this dragon martial skill. When he was fighting with the talisman Xueqi woman, Kong Shinmu could use the wind shadow flowing cloud flash once every 3 breaths of time. However, if he encountered a stronger opponent, his opponent would be able to kill him several times in these 3 breaths of time. Therefore, Kong Shinmu urgently wanted to cultivate the wind shadow flowing cloud flash to the dragon martial skill. Normally, the wind shadow flowing cloud flash could only be used once every 3 breaths of time. However, Kong Shinmu's current comprehension of this dragon martial skill was at the extreme saint realm. Therefore, once he broke through to the dragon martial skill, the interval between using this move would only be 1 breath of time, or even shorter. At that time, Kong Shinmu would be truly invincible. If he could resist, he would resist. If he couldn't, he would dodge. Moreover, he would be able to dodge continuously, making it impossible for his opponent to catch him. Unless he used some kind of formation to trap Kong Shinmu, or used the ability of the blood-red rose fan to seal his opponent. However, at that time, Kong Shinmu's divine dragon body's defense would come into play, and he would be able to resist his opponent's attack. Unless his opponent was much stronger than him. Facing an existence that was much stronger than him, Kong Shinmu naturally wouldn't have the thought of fighting it head-on. He would have fled the moment he encountered it. Laughing Flower and the others went to obtain their rewards. This time, they should be able to obtain a great deal of guardian points. To Kong Shinmu, what he cared about the most was the special rewards that the clan behind him would give him. The water tribe had been killed by them, and there should also be a genius among them. Would the ancient Phoenix clan give a good reward? 3 days later. Kong Shinmu's shadowy sunset flash finally broke through to the dragon realm after 3 days of seclusion. He tried to use the shadowy sunset flash and found that he still needed about a blink of an eye to gather his strength. This meant that at some point, he might not be able to react in time to dodge. If he wanted to use it faster, he had to cultivate this dragon martial skill to the heaven realm. However, Kong Shinmu now had Linghu Daiyer's comprehension of the extreme saint realm. Therefore, although his shadowy sunset flash had only been cultivated to the dragon realm, the speed at which he used it was already comparable to an ordinary person's heaven realm. When he truly cultivated this dragon martial skill to the extreme saint realm, it would be the time when this dragon martial skill reached the great accomplishment. As for his injuries, they had naturally healed long ago. Not only that, his divine dragon tyrant body art had also made great progress and made a breakthrough. He was now one step closer to the saint realm. When his shadowy sunset flash truly broke through, he finally stopped his seclusion and left the courtyard. He came to the front hall of the Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy's office. Many students of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy were busy here, as well as instructor Dragon Emperor. At the same time, there were also many Dragon Emperor and Dragon King level experts strolling around. These were the experts of the Dragon Martial Continent's Dragon Emperor Kingdom. They had defected to Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy and stood on the same side as Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. In other words, these Dragon Emperor and Dragon King mainly killed their opponents from the Talisman clan, the Virtual Human clan, and the Demon God clan. Unfortunately, the opponents were basically all slaves or clansmen from the army. The former were not valuable to hunt, while the latter had high combat strength. Moreover, they were basically sent out in small teams, so it was very difficult to hunt them down. As a result, there were very few dragon martial artists who could gain an advantage on the battlefield of the 9 great races. Even if they managed to obtain a lot of protection points, they would only be able to kill some slaves of the 9 great races. As for those who managed to hunt down the clansmen of the 9 great races, apart from Kong Shinmu, there were some, but not many. Moreover, the clansmen they hunted were not geniuses, but soldiers of the army. The 9 great races sent to the battlefield of the 9 great races, apart from some geniuses who came to gain experience, were soldiers of the army. These soldiers were specially trained by the 9 great races to participate in territorial disputes and conflicts. Fighting was their only duty. Although these opponents might not be very talented, resulting in their cultivation realm and inheritance grade not being too high, their combat strength was definitely above average among those of the same level. Ordinary Dragon Emperor powerhouses could only turn around and run when they encountered them, and they might not even be able to escape. Kong Shinmu was able to kill the woman from the Talisman clan because he was strong enough, and he also had a certain amount of luck. When he came out of the backyard of the office of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy and walked to the front hall, he found that there were many dragon martial artists and students there. They were all looking at him strangely, and some were even whispering to each other. "What's going on?" Kong Shinmu saw a familiar person not far away. It was Senior Dragon Emperor of Great Liang, so he went up to him and asked. The Dragon Emperor of Great Liang now belonged to the camp of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy. Although he himself had reached the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor and could not participate in the battle personally, he also had some subordinates from the Dragon Country of Great Liang. These subordinates had gone to the battlefields of the Talisman clan, the Demon God clan, and the Virtual Human clan to hunt. When the Dragon Emperor of Great Liang saw Kong Shinmu, he was slightly stunned. Then he frowned and waved at him. When Kong Shinmu walked over, the Dragon Emperor of Great Liang lowered his voice and said, "Kong Shinmu, now there are rumors that you have colluded with the Talisman clan. Some people saw you go deep into the battlefield of the Talisman clan and then disappear. Then, they were chased by the powerhouses of the Talisman clan, saying that you have surrendered to the Talisman clan." Ha! When Kong Shinmu heard this, he was instantly stunned. This rumor was a bit powerful. Obviously, it was Lin Shuang, a student from Donghuang Yonggu College. This Lin Shuang was previously very displeased with Kong Shinmu. He did not expect such a rumor to spread in the Dragon Martial Fortress after his return. No wonder when Kong Shinmu appeared in public, the surrounding people looked at him strangely. "Have the 4 of them returned?" Kong Shinmu asked. The Dragon Emperor of Great Liang shook his head. He also had some understanding of this matter, so he said, "Only 3 returned. The other one did not return." He might have been killed by the geniuses of the Talisman clan. As soon as the three returned, they announced that they were killed by you. Impressive. Impressive. Chapter 4601. Other than Kong Shinmu's group of 5 and Linghu Dyer, no one else knew what spoils Kong Shinmu's group had brought back. Lin Shuang and the others knew that there were 3 profound hearts from the Talisman Water Tribe. However, Lin Shuang had no idea that the Talisman Water Tribe woman had already been killed by Kong Shinmu's group. She was clearly an important figure in the tribe, a very important genius. Although she wasn't at the peak, she couldn't be sacrificed so easily. Therefore, if the Talisman Water Tribe had colluded with Kong Shinmu, they wouldn't have allowed her to be killed. As for the other 3 Talisman Water Tribe members, they didn't seem to have high statuses. They were probably members of the Talisman Water Tribe's army. There were many of them, so the death of a few didn't matter. Therefore, in Lin Shuang's eyes, it was very likely that Kong Shinmu had colluded with the Talisman Water Tribe. Moreover, in order to prevent Kong Shinmu from arousing suspicion, he had even given them 3 Talisman Water Tribe warriors to kill. It could be considered a gift. After all, in Lin Shuang's eyes, it didn't make sense. Kong Shinmu's group couldn't be that strong. Back then, the 3 Talisman Water Tribe members had joined hands to kill the 7 of them. However, Kong Shinmu's group of 5 had appeared and killed them instantly. Lin Shuang and the others hadn't even seen how they had done it. Therefore they had proof. After all, in their eyes, Kong Shinmu's group of 5 couldn't be that strong. After returning, they had spread the news, causing Kong Shinmu's reputation in the Martial Dragon Fortress to be quite bad. Although those familiar with Kong Shinmu knew that Kong Shinmu couldn't possibly collude with the Talisman Water Tribe, others didn't know. Especially those from the reclusive Dragon Clan. They didn't know Kong Shinmu at all. Many of the younger generation's geniuses were surprised and indifferent when they heard this rumor. In fact, the current situation in the Martial Dragon continent was very complicated. Schemes similar to the Evil Princes were not uncommon. Quite a few martialists of the Martial Dragon Fortress had already cooperated with the 9 major races, helping to kill other martialists of the Martial Dragon Fortress and offering the most important part of the martialists, the Dragon Heart Bone. Of course, these things were done very discreetly, and it was impossible for anyone to find out. Otherwise, the person who did such a thing would definitely be done for. The dragon martial artists would not tolerate them. As for seeking refuge with the dragon martial artist, the dragon martial artist would cooperate with you because you were valuable. You could use your identity as a dragon martial artist to get close to other dragon martial artists more easily, and then launch sneak attacks and assassinations. Once your identity is exposed, even if you are lucky enough to escape the Martial Dragon Fortress, there will be no place for you outside. Currently, Jiang Shenwu was facing such a situation. Many people were already guessing whether Jiang Shenwu had colluded with the Talisman Water Tribe and planned to harm his own people by killing the Dragon Martialist to exchange for cultivation resources with the Talisman Water Tribe. Even in the office hall of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy, many people looked at Kong Shinmu with malicious eyes. At this moment, Kong Shinmu and the Dragon Emperor of Great Liang were together. Ordinary martialists and students did not dare to act rashly in front of them. However, a voice suddenly came from afar, seemingly taking pleasure in Jiang Shenwu's misfortune. "Oh, isn't this Jiang Shenwu? I heard that you colluded with the Fu Shui tribe. Why, are you planning to kill our compatriots of the Martial Dragon continent and exchange the lives of our compatriots for the cultivation resources you need?" Kong Shinmu and the Dragon Emperor of Great Liang looked in the direction of the voice and saw 2 familiar young men. They were young Master Gu Jiu and young Master Liang from the Hidden Dragon Martial Arts clan. One of them was from the secluded Gu family, while the other was from the secluded Liang family. They were considered the strongest among the younger generation of these 2 families. Originally, due to Jiang Shenwu's illustrious battle achievements, these 2 people didn't dare to come out and confront Jiang Shenwu, nor did they dare to come out and say anything to him. But this time, they really couldn't bear it anymore. Ever since they joined the Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy, they had been suppressed by Kong Shinmu. On the surface, Kong Shinmu did not do anything to them, but Kong Shinmu's breakthrough speed was too fast. In comparison, they were almost like trash. How could they, who had been pampered and considered themselves geniuses, tolerate this? They had wanted to get rid of Kong Shinmu for a long time. Their appearance at this time was obviously to add insult to injury, or to add fuel to the fire. They wanted to take this opportunity to get rid of Kong Shinmu completely. Those words were said by young Master Gu Jiao. When young Master Liang saw Kong Shinmu and the surrounding people looking at him, he smiled coldly and said, Kong Shinmu, as a genius dragon martial artist trained by the Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy, I didn't expect you to betray us. You even wanted to collude with the Fu Shui tribe to harm our compatriots in the Dragon Martial Continent. You are so vicious and heartless. His words caused an uproar among the crowd. Many people began to whisper and discuss. Could it be that Kong Shinmu really colluded with the Fu Shui tribe? Young Master Gu Jiao said calmly, Donghuang Yonggu College is already investigating this matter. If you are found to have killed our compatriots, you can only atone for your sins with your death. The Dragon Martial Continent cannot tolerate a so-called genius like you who betrays us. His words made Kong Shinmu narrow his eyes. It sounded like Donghuang Yonggu College was already investigating this matter, and it seemed like the investigation had some results. Kong Shinmu had indeed killed a dragon martial artist, Chu Qingyun. However, that was before the invasion of the 9 clans. Therefore, if they used this reason to accuse Kong Shinmu of colluding with the Fu Shui tribe, it would definitely not work. I didn't expect that now that the Dragon Martial Continent is being invaded by the 9 clans, we still have the mood to fight among ourselves. What a joke. Kong Shinmu glanced at young Master Gu Jiao and shook his head indifferently. He ignored him. He believed that Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy would definitely treat him fairly. After all, he was now a student of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. Even if Donghuang Yonggu College found out that there was something wrong with him and wanted to arrest him, they had to get the approval of the higher-ups of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. As for Linghu Dai, it was impossible for her to believe that Kong Shinmu had colluded with the Fu Shui tribe. He had even brought back the spoils of war from the Fu Shui tribe. How could it be possible that he had colluded with the Fu Shui tribe? Even if he had really colluded with the Fu Shui tribe, there was no need for him to bring back the profound heart of the Fu Shui tribe. Even if some of the soldiers of the Fu Shui tribe did not have a high status, they were definitely not dispensable. They would not have taken the initiative to hand them over to Kong Shinmu. Chapter 4602. After Kong Shinmu said this, he didn't say anything else. On the other hand, 9th young Master Gu still sneered and said sarcastically, Kong Shinmu, what nonsense are you talking about? Internal strife? How is this internal strife? We are eliminating the vermin of the Martial Dragon Fortress. The one who is really fighting is you, right? You colluded with the Talisman Water Tribe, and you still have the face to say such words? I feel ashamed for you. Kong Shinmu didn't say anything. He never liked verbal arguments. He continued to stay with Great Liang's Dragon Emperor and didn't do anything. He just waited for news from Linghu Dai. However, Linghu Dai had the profound heart of the Talisman Water Tribe, so it was impossible for her to come down so quickly. The ancient Phoenix clan might also need to consider what kind of special reward they should give Kong Shinmu this time. Ever since the ancient Phoenix clan and Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy cooperated, Kong Shinmu had already received 2 special rewards. The first was the Phoenix Spirit Firestone, and the second was the Divine Dragon Marrow. The former could rapidly increase a dragon martial artist's cultivation realm, and the latter could allow a dragon martial artist's inherited blood essence to break through to a higher level. It was hard to say what the third special reward would be. He didn't know what the other party would give him. However, Kong Shinmu knew that the other party would definitely give him a reward. After all, he had killed the geniuses of the Void Human Tribe and the Talisman Water Tribe, which was very important to the ancient Phoenix clan. The 2 geniuses that Kong Shinmu killed were people that the other party could not kill in a head-on battle. They were both precious geniuses of the younger generation. How could they really go to a head-on battle? Normally, these geniuses were protected by their elders. Only in the void battlefield of the Martial Dragon Continent did they come out to gain experience. Because they underestimated the dragon martial artists of the Martial Dragon Continent, they were accidentally killed. This kind of result was quite impressive for the 2 hostile races. Now that they had killed a genius, they would have one less powerful opponent in a decade or 2. It was a once-and-for-all solution. How could he not reward such a contribution? And if he didn't give this sort of reward, then the dragon martial artists that had the ability to kill these geniuses might even attack their own clansmen of the ancient Phoenix clan. Thus, it was best to join forces and encourage the students of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy to hunt down these 3 enemies. What would the special reward this time be? After all, he had also killed a member of the Fu Water Tribe. Among the 4 Fu Water Tribe members, only the woman from the Fu Water Tribe had a relatively high status. However, her overall value might even surpass that of the 2 Void Human Tribe prodigies. On the other hand, Kong Shin Mu didn't gain much this time. The 4 Fu Shui clansmen only had a total of 5 items that were similar to dragon weapons. From the looks of it, they should be comparable to Earth-grade Holy Spirit dragon weapons. There was even a dragon-grade Holy Spirit dragon weapon that came from the Fu Shui woman at the back. Kong Shin Mu planned to sell them all. Kong Shin Mu planned to cultivate the inheritance of the Void Human Tribe. Thus, he left behind 2 heaven-grade phantom weapons. He planned to use them in the future. If he could use them. As for these Fu Shui clansmen, they were useless to Kong Shin Mu. He could just exchange them for them. If he exchanged for a dragon-grade Holy Spirit dragon weapon and 4 Earth-grade Holy Spirit dragon weapons, he could once again strengthen Kong Shin Mu and the others. Or perhaps, he could offer these Holy Spirit dragon weapons to Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy and exchange them for Guardian Points. Then, he could use the Guardian Points to exchange for a high-grade Holy Spirit dragon martial technique. This could be considered as an option. However, if he wanted to exchange for a high-grade Holy Spirit dragon martial technique, they still didn't have enough merit points. Even if the 5 of them added up their Guardian Points, it still wouldn't be enough. A high-grade Holy Spirit dragon martial technique wasn't that easy to obtain. It was the highest-grade dragon martial technique that could be cultivated below super divine dragons. Kong Shin Mu didn't say anything. The surroundings became increasingly noisy. Suddenly, a loud noise came from outside the office of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. Where's Kong Shin Mu? Call Kong Shin Mu out. There's enough evidence to prove that he's colluding with the Fu Shui clan. Call him out and pronounce his crimes. That's right. Get Kong Shin Mu out here. He actually colluded with the Fu Shui clan and killed our fellow dragon martialists. This is a heinous crime. A loud noise came, causing the dragon martialists and students in the office's front hall to be shocked. They swept their gazes over to Kong Shin Mu. Countless sharp gazes focused on Kong Shin Mu. There's actually evidence. This matter would be blown out of proportion. If someone really brought out evidence of Kong Shin Mu colluding with the Fu Shui clan, Kong Shin Mu would definitely be punished with death. The Longgu Fortress would definitely not tolerate him. In fact, it was highly possible that he would be executed on the spot. Right now, everyone in the Longgu Fortress was in a state of panic. The situation was extremely tense. How could someone actually collude with an enemy? Hearing the noise outside, Kong Shin Mu also frowned slightly. Someone actually said that there was enough evidence to prove that he was colluding with the Fu Shui clan? Who was the one speaking? How dare he spout such nonsense? Kong Shin Mu did not believe that there would be any evidence to prove that he was colluding with the Fu Shui clan. This was because he had never colluded with the Fu Shui clan. If the other party brought out any evidence, then it would definitely be fake evidence. In the hall, everyone's gaze turned to Kong Shin Mu. Obviously, when Kong Shin Mu appeared in the hall, someone spread the news. Immediately, there were people who wanted to slap Kong Shin Mu in the face. They could not wait any longer. Kong Shin Mu could even feel the fanaticism in the hearts of the group of people outside. He didn't say anything. Instead, he was calm and composed as he walked out of the office together with the Dragon Emperor of Great Liang. Everyone followed him out of the door, and they saw the students from the other 3 Dragon Martial Academies. In front of them were the 2 Dragon Emperor mentors from Donghuang Yonggu College. These 2 Dragon Emperor mentors looked extremely serious, but when they looked at Kong Shin Mu, they were gloating. Obviously, this was a conspiracy launched by the 3 Dragon Martial Academies to target Kong Shin Mu. With Donghuang Yonggu College as the leader, they planned to suppress Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. After all, Kong Shin Mu's talent was too high, so high that they felt threatened. Even the Dragon Emperor mentors felt uneasy. Once Kong Shin Mu really rose, the entire Donghuang Yonggu College would be slapped in the face, because Kong Shin Mu was chased out by Zhua Xiaofeng. As Zhua Xiaofeng's lackey, many Dragon Emperor mentors naturally could not bear to see Kong Shin Mu rise. Therefore now, they had to suppress Kong Shin Mu. When they saw Kong Shin Mu and the others coming out, their expressions changed slightly. This kid was growing too fast. In such a short time, He had already reached the second level of the Dragon Emperor's inheritance, and even his cultivation had reached the second level of the rebirth realm. If they did not suppress him, they would not be able to contain him. Everyone, what's the commotion? Chapter 4603. This time, it was two Dragon Emperor mentors from Donghuang Yonggu College who brought a group of students from the three major dragon academies to cause trouble. These two Dragon Emperor mentors were Zhou Jingyun and Bian Feng. Both of them were veteran Dragon Emperor mentors from Donghuang Yonggu College. They were both at the 7th level of the Dragon Emperor's Divine Dragon Blood Essence grade. As for their cultivation, it was needless to say that they had reached the pinnacle of the rebirth tribulations realm. Zhou Jingyun was dressed in a black robe. He had a short stature, but his back was extremely straight. There was nothing he could do about it. He was not tall to begin with. If he did not straighten his back, he would look even shorter. Bian Feng, on the other hand, was tall. He stood in front of everyone like a mountain with a dignified expression and an upright and plain-spoken look. The two Dragon Emperor mentors had average strength and were not ranked on the Dragon Emperor list. However, they were Dragon Emperor mentors after all. Even if their individual strength was not comparable to the current Dragon Emperor of Great Liang, they were not much weaker than him. They were both at the level of being on the Dragon Emperor list. This time, they came to target Kong Xinmu. It was obvious that they wanted to curry favor with Zhuo Xiaofeng. Zhuo Xiaofeng might even be the cause of the whole thing. Behind Zhou Jingyun and Bian Feng was a group of students from the Dragon Academy. There were students from Donghuang, South Emperor, and Bei Huang. It was obvious that this operation to target Kong Xinmu had the unanimous support of the three major Dragon Academies. In the end, it was Donghuang Yonggu College's Dragon Emperor mentor who showed up. In the crowd, Kong Xinmu saw Lin Shuang behind Zhou Jingyun and Bian Feng. Lin Shuang and his two subordinates had come with him. They had a cold and confident smile on their faces. It was obvious that they wanted to kill Kong Xinmu. However, Kong Xinmu really could not understand. Did he offend Lin Shuang? This Lin Shuang was really like a mad dog. Whenever he caught someone, he wanted to bite them. Kong Xinmu glanced at Lin Shuang and then shifted his gaze. He couldn't be bothered to interact with this kind of trash. To be honest, if he had known that Lin Shuang would create such rumors to slander Kong Xinmu would not have let him go and would have killed him instead. In the end, he didn't intend to kill him, but he wanted to kill Kong Xinmu instead. If the crime of colluding with the Fu Shui tribe was proven, how could Kong Xinmu not die? As soon as the Dragon Emperor of Great Liang came out, he asked the people in front of him what they wanted. Zhou Jingyun smiled faintly. So it's the Dragon Emperor of Great Liang. It's better if you don't interfere in today's matter. This Kong Xinmu colluded with the Fu Shui tribe. The evidence is conclusive. He even caused the death of our Donghuang Yonggu College's students. We must get to the bottom of this matter. We will not let the murderer get away with it. Hearing Zhou Jingyun's words, the surrounding people looked at Kong Xinmu. These people were basically the masses who did not know the truth. There were students from the Dragon Martial Academy, Dragon Martial Artists from the Hidden Families, and Dragon Martial Artists from the Dragon Emperor's Kingdom. But without exception, after hearing this, they all showed their disgust and hatred for Kong Xinmu. They did not avoid Kong Xinmu's presence at all. They began to point fingers and criticize Kong Xinmu. Some of their words were quite unpleasant. Unfortunately, Kong Xinmu did not care about them. Hearing Zhou Jingyun's words, he said, "It was Lin Shuang who told you that I colluded with the Fu Shui tribe, right? Lin Shuang, come out. Tell me, how did I collude with the Fu Shui tribe?" Lin Shuang was not afraid. He looked coldly at Kong Xinmu, his face filled with grief and indignation. He stood up, looked around, and cupped his hands in salute to the people around him. Then he said in a sorrowful voice, "Seniors, comrades, this Kong Xinmu colluded with the Fu Shui tribe and assassinated my team members. My team members died on the battlefield of the Fu Shui tribe, and he killed them with his own hands. My teammate, Meng Chuan, left the Dragon Martial Fortress with me and went to the battlefield of the Fu Shui tribe. We chanced upon Jiang Xinwu's team and discovered that they had disappeared into the depths of the Fu Shui race's battlefield. Then, two geniuses of the Fu Shui tribe came out to kill us. We could only split up and escape. In the end, Meng Chuan did not return. When we returned to safety, We happened to see Kong Shinmu and a genius of the Fushui tribe brutally killing Meng Chuan. We didn't even manage to retrieve Meng Chuan's corpse. Kong Shinmu even wanted to join forces with a genius of the Fushui tribe to slaughter my team. In the end, the two Dragon Emperor mentors happened to pass by and saved us. Unfortunately, mentors are not allowed to intervene on the battlefield. Otherwise, they would have killed Kong Shinmu on the spot. Now, Mentor Chiu and Mentor Bien are seeking justice for us. They are determined not to let the traitor Kong Shinmu get away scot-free. We must expose the evidence of his collusion with the Fushui tribe. Lin Shuang's speech was impassioned and filled with grief and indignation. He was completely hostile to Kong Shinmu because of his dead teammate Meng Chuan. It was a wonderful performance, almost as if it was real. More importantly, Mentor Chiu Jingyun also said in a low voice, "That's right, we can prove this." Bien Feng and I went to the battlefield of the Fushui tribe to check if there were any powerhouses above the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor participating in the battle. In the end, we encountered this incident. Kong Shinmu colluded with the Fushui tribe to murder Meng Chuan, a student of the Donghuang Yonggu College. He is a traitor of the Dragon Martial Continent. We must kill him. Otherwise, how can the Dragon Martial Continent defeat the 9 great tribes and escape the fate of being occupied by other tribes and enslaved by all living beings? Mentor Chiu Jingyun's words were like deafening thunder, directly entering the ears of the surrounding people. Everyone nodded in agreement. If this was the truth, then Kong Shinmu should be killed. How could he collude with the Fushui tribe to kill a student of the Donghuang Yonggu College? This was preposterous. Kong Shinmu, do you plead guilty? The tall Dragon Emperor Mentor Bien Feng looked at Kong Shinmu and said this. His tone was calm, as if he didn't care whether Kong Shinmu pleaded guilty or not. When Jiang Shenwu heard the words of the other party, he almost burst out laughing. He killed Meng Chuan? Meng Chuan was one of Lin Shuang's subordinates. If Kong Shinmu's guess was correct, after the 4 of them escaped, Meng Chuan was chased by the man from the Fushui tribe and died. He didn't make it back. However, the other party framed Kong Shinmu and said that Kong Shinmu killed Meng Chuan. Most importantly, there were 2 Dragon Emperor mentors who had come forward to testify that this matter was true. Kong Shinmu glanced at Bien Feng and Chiu Jingyun, and his expression instantly turned cold. These 2 Dragon Emperor mentors were definitely Zhuo Xiaofeng's lackeys. Otherwise, there was no need for them to target Kong Shinmu. Chapter 4604. When Chiu Jingyun, Lin Shuang, and the others said this, the opinions of the people around them grew even stronger. They even cursed at Kong Shinmu. This guy actually colluded with the prodigy of the Fushui clan to kill the dragon martial artist? This was too shocking. Traitor, traitor. The word, traitor, was constantly being shouted by the people around them. Every student hated Kong Shinmu so much that they could not wait to kill Kong Shinmu on the spot. Unfortunately, the Dragon Emperor of Great Liang was by Kong Shinmu's side. With the protection of the Dragon Emperor of Great Liang, it was impossible for the people present to kill Kong Shinmu, unless an expert in the top 50 of the Dragon Emperor list came. However, why would an expert in the top 50 of the Dragon Emperor list participate in this matter? For example, no matter how much Zhuo Xiaofeng wanted to kill Kong Shinmu, it was impossible for him to do it himself, because it would definitely be a laughingstock. Zhuo Xiaofeng, the dean of Donghuang Yonggu College, a super dragon god level expert, actually killed an ordinary Dragon Emperor level student. This would make people look down on them. Therefore, with the Dragon Emperor of Great Liang around, unless Kong Shinmu really wanted to die, no one would really dare to kill him. Moreover, Kong Shinmu's strength was not bad at all. Other than Mentor Dragon Emperor, Kong Shinmu was not afraid of any opponent present. As for the so-called prodigy of Donghuang Yonggu College like Lin Shuang, to Kong Shinmu, he could even kill him in one move. The surrounding people started to make a ruckus, constantly throwing hateful looks at Kong Shinmu, but some people still did not believe it and cast doubtful looks at Kong Shinmu. Could it be that Kong Shinmu really colluded with the Fushui clan? After all, the 2 tutors from Donghuang Yonggu College wouldn't lie through their teeth, right? Unfortunately, the truth was that they were all lying. They wanted to make Jiang Shenwu the enemy of everyone on the Martial Dragon continent, to make him stand on the opposite side and be spurned by everyone. Kong Shinmu, do you plead guilty? Chiu Jingyun waited for 2 breaths of time. Seeing that Kong Shinmu did not respond, she immediately shouted again. Her voice was like a muffled thunder, causing everyone to quieten down. They shut their mouths and looked at Kong Shin-mu, wanting to see how he would explain himself. "What crime have I committed?" Kong Shin-mu unhurriedly said these few words. "Everything that you have said has never happened." "Lin Xuang, don't you have 7 people in your team?" "What? Only the 3 of you have come to deal with me? And Lin Yuji, Qin Fengyu, and Lu Hua, where are they?" If the 3 of them were here, Kong Shin-mu believed that they would definitely stand on his side. However, after hearing Kong Shin-mu's words, Lin Xuang's eyes widened. Her face was filled with misery and resentment. She said with an extremely pained expression, You still dare to mention them?" "Qin Fengyu and Lu Hua. They are the couple with the best tempers in my team. They are naive and have never thought that you, Kong Shin-mu, could be so vicious. This is what happened. I brought a total of 7 people from my team to the battlefield of the Fu Shui clan. At that time, we were chasing after 2 water slaves. In the end, the 2 water slaves split up and escaped, so we split up. Lin Yuji brought Qin Fengyu and Lu Hua to chase after one of the water slaves. After we split up, I never saw the 3 of them again. Later, I heard from Tutor Cho that before he saved us, he saw the corpses of Lin Yuji and the others. They were already dead. But this is absolutely impossible." The veins on Lin Xuang's face bulged. He looked like a demon, as if he was telling the truth. Because that water slave was only at the 5th level of the rebirth realm. There was no way he could have been a match for Lin Yuji and the others. How could they possibly have died? Tutor Cho said that he sensed the aura of a dragon martial artist at the scene. Where did this aura come from? Kong Shin-mu, why don't you explain? Although we didn't see it with our own eyes, Lin Yuji and the others most likely died in your hands, right? You are so cruel. I heard that Qin Fengyu and Lu Hua were good friends of yours at Donghuang Yonggu College. How could you kill them so cruelly? Everyone in the surroundings was shocked by what he said. They didn't expect that Lin Xuang's words were getting more and more serious. Kong Shin-mu didn't only collude with the Fu Shui clan to kill Meng Chuan, but he also killed Lin Yuji, Qin Fengyu, and Lu Hua? What audacity! What a traitor! This man should be punished. When Kong Shin-mu heard Lin Xuang's words, his expression changed again and again. Lin Xuang's words gave him a bad premonition. If Lin Yuji, Qin Fengyu, and Lu Hua were present, they would definitely not help to frame Kong Shin-mu, even if they were pressured by Zhuo Xiaofeng. However, they didn't come. However, it was absolutely impossible for them to not know about this matter. Unfortunately, their existence was definitely a huge obstacle to the plan to frame Jiang Shenwu. Could it be that they had already been killed by someone? Kong Shin-mu's expression darkened. If Lin Yuji and the others had really been killed, then this matter was too serious. Kong Shin-mu would never forgive anyone who was involved in this matter. In order to frame Kong Shin-mu, the other party had killed Lin Yuji and the others. Moreover, after killing Kong Shin-mu, Zhuo Xiaofeng definitely didn't want this matter to be exposed. Therefore, Lin Yuji and the others would really be killed instead of temporarily imprisoned. The 3 of them would never appear in the Dragon Martial Continent again, in front of the people of the Martial Dragon Fortress. This situation made Kong Shin-mu go crazy. Lin Yuji and the others had died because they wanted to frame him? Kong Shin-mu's expression became extremely ugly and gloomy. Kong Shin-mu, tell me, did you kill Lin Yuji and the others? Lin Xuang asked frantically. Her eyes were filled with a maniacal delight. That brat Jiang Shenwu actually dared to look down on him. And now, that brat was about to become the first person in the Martial Dragon Continent to be exposed for colluding with outsiders, the greatest sinner in history. Murdering his own people, colluding with the Fu Shui tribe, this matter was too serious. There was no way Kong Shin-mu could survive. There was no evidence to prove that Kong Shin-mu did not kill Lin Yuji and the others. There was also no evidence to prove that Kong Shin-mu did not collude with the Fu Shui tribe to kill Meng Chuan. Immediately, everyone stared at Kong Shin-mu with sharp eyes. Of course, the Dragon Emperor of Great Liang didn't believe that Kong Shin-mu would do such a thing. However, at this moment, the crowd was so agitated that his expression became extremely solemn. Chapter 4605. Just as the crowd was about to go out of control, Kong Shin-mu stared into Lin Xuang's eyes. In this extremely noisy environment, He became extremely calm. He stared at Lin Xuang and said, "Lin Xuang, if you dare to harm Lin Yuji and the others, I will take your life." Everyone. He looked around and said calmly, "I, Kong Shinmu, have never colluded with the Fu Shui tribe. Not only that, but I have also killed 4 members of the Fu Shui tribe. 3 days ago, I brought them back and handed them over to the seniors of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. If I colluded with the Fu Shui tribe, why would I kill members of the Fu Shui tribe? The seniors of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy can prove this. In fact, when I led a team to the battlefield of the Fu Shui tribe, I saw Lin Xuang and the others being ambushed by 3 Fu Shui tribe cultivators. They were on the brink of death. So we saved Lin Xuang and killed the 3 members of the Fu Shui tribe. Later, we saw 2 geniuses of the Fu Shui tribe chasing after Lin Xuang. At that time, Lin Xuang and the others were only left with 4 people. So they split up and escaped in 4 different directions. The 2 geniuses of the Fu Shui tribe also split up, so we chased after one of them and killed a female member of the Fu Shui tribe. For this, I was seriously injured. The other genius of the Fu Shui tribe might have caught up with Meng Chuan and killed him. But Lin Xuang and the others were not chased, and they successfully escaped back to the Longwu fortress. Until now, I still don't know who the female member of the Fu Shui tribe that we killed was chasing after. I'm afraid the one chasing after you, Lin Xuang. If we hadn't killed that female member of the Fu Shui tribe, do you think you would have been able to return to the Longwu fortress alive? Everyone's expressions changed when they heard Kong Shinmu's words. The 2 sides were talking about different things. In fact, they were completely different. According to Lin Xuang, Kong Shinmu had colluded with the Fu Shui tribe and killed fellow dragon martial artists. He had even killed Lin Yuji, Qin Fengyu, and Lu Hua, 3 of his friends. But according to Kong Shinmu, it was Kong Shinmu who saved Lin Xuang. Later, when Lin Xuang and the others were being hunted, Kong Shinmu saved them again. Which one of them was telling the truth? The surrounding crowd was a little dumbfounded. This matter seemed a little complicated. It was definitely not as simple as it seemed on the surface. However, it was obvious that they were more inclined to believe in Lin Xuang and the others. This was because Lin Xuang had 2 Dragon Emperor mentors on his side. If Instructor Dragon Emperor said that they saw Kong Shinmu kill Meng Chuan with their own eyes, and he even joined forces with a Talisman Water Tribe genius to kill Meng Chuan, then this matter was most likely true. With Instructor Dragon Emperor's status, there was no need for him to lie and accuse Kong Shinmu, right? What good would that do them? Therefore, there were still many people looking at Kong Shinmu with hatred. Lin Xuang voiced out the thoughts of these people. He sneered and said, "Kong Shinmu, you are too cunning. You still want to fabricate lies to deny the truth under such circumstances. You really deserve to be punished. You say that you saved us, but what proof do you have? You also say that you killed a Talisman Water Tribe genius, but what proof do you have? We can prove it." Just as Lin Xuang was interrogating Kong Shinmu, a few similar voices came from behind Kong Shinmu. It was Xiao Yuhua, Xiao Bai, Ran Ran, and Liang Xiao. The 4 of them had appeared together because they had sensed a commotion outside, so they had come out to take a look. They hadn't expected to see such a scene. Xiao Yuhua, who was standing beside Kong Shinmu, glared at Lin Xuang and spat, "Shameless scum, I shouldn't have saved your life. I should have let you die at the hands of the Talisman Water Tribe. You are really biting the hand that feeds you." Many people in the surroundings calmed down when they saw Xiao Yuhua and the other 3 appear. They were Kong Shinmu's team members. They all recognized them. All 4 of them ran out and glared at Lin Xuang with hatred, as though Lin Xuang was a heinous villain. Liang Xiao glanced at Chou Jingyun and Bian Feng. These 2 Dragon Emperor teachers had stern expressions on their faces. They didn't look like they would accuse someone unjustly. Liang Xiao looked at the 2 Dragon Emperor teachers and yawned. Donghuang Yongwu College's Dragon Emperor teachers are actually so shameless and shameful? Just to deal with a student who left Donghuang Yongwu College, they actually made up all sorts of lies. How amazing! It's a pity. Do you know that once you tell a lie, you need to tell more lies to maintain it? As long as it's a lie, the truth will be revealed one day. Come. Teachers, since you say that we colluded with the Talisman Water Tribe and killed a student of your Donghuang Yongwu College, let's confront each other. Liang Xiao was famous for being a hoodlum. When he quarreled, he would pester others relentlessly. Now that he had been wrongly accused, he immediately became reckless. He definitely wouldn't let others lead him by the nose. Confront each other? Cho Jingyun and Bien Feng sneered. They were fully prepared this time. The only witness on their side had already been dealt with. It was impossible for him to testify. Under such circumstances, no matter how they confronted each other, it was impossible for them to lose. That's right. Confront each other. Liang Xiao sneered and glanced at the other party with a look of disdain. As for the others around him, they were puzzled. Liang Xiao's solemn vow made it seem as though the two Dragon Emperor teachers were villains. He actually dared to confront each other. He made it seem as though they were wrongly accused. In that case, what exactly was going on? The dragon martial artists around them instantly quieted down. They wanted to see what the outcome would be if the situation continued to develop. Although most of them already believed that Kong Xinmu had colluded with the Talisman Water Tribe, the truth was still unclear. They couldn't be 100% sure just by listening to the words of the teachers and students of Donghuang Yongwu College. What if someone was trying to frame Kong Xinmu? Therefore, it was better to listen to their confrontation. Thus, the crowd quieted down and turned their attention to Liang Xiao and the two Dragon Emperor teachers. Liang Xiao snorted coldly, his eyes full of disdain. Senior teachers, I will address you as seniors respectfully. I hope you can act like one. Let me ask you first. You said that you saw Kong Xinmu and the Talisman Water Tribe killing Meng Chuan together? Let's start with this scene. I have 3 questions that I need the two teachers to answer separately. With your strength, you definitely wouldn't forget the details of what you saw with your own eyes, would you? Let's talk about the details of how Kong Xinmu colluded with the Talisman Water Tribe to kill Meng Chuan. Of course, the two of you will have to answer separately. If your answers match up, then we admit defeat. But if your answers don't match up, seniors, you are definitely slandering us. As soon as he said this, someone clapped his hands. That's a good idea. Confrontation, confrontation. Immediately, everyone around him agreed. Chapter 4606. Kong Xinmu narrowed his eyes at Liang Xiao's suggestion. This lad seemed to have a way to deal with the current situation. Didn't he see Cho Jingyun and Bien Feng's faces darken? Humph. Bien Feng snorted coldly. He flicked his sleeves and said, Confrontation? 3 questions? Do you think that our great Dragon Emperor tutor would lie and frame us? We have witnessed the truth with our own eyes. How can a sinner like you doubt it? In reality, this operation had been planned by Zhuo Xiaofeng, and the main trigger was Lin Shuang. When Lin Shuang returned, the operation had already begun. Therefore, Bien Feng and Cho Jingyun naturally had a unified statement. They even checked some details with each other to ensure that when necessary, they wouldn't reveal any flaws because they said different things. Now that Liang Xiao had come out and asked them to answer 3 questions, it was obvious that their preparations had come in handy. No matter what the details were, they had thought about it. They had come up with a plan and agreed on how Kong Xinmu had teamed up with the prodigies of the Fu Shui tribe to kill Meng Chuan. However, it was impossible for them to obediently confront each other just because Liang Xiao suggested it. They were the Dragon Emperor tutors of Donghuang Yongwu College. They had never been on good terms with Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. How could they do as Liang Xiao said? In summary, Kong Xinmu, you colluded with the Fu Shui tribe and killed a student of Donghuang Yongwu College. You have committed a heinous crime. Our Dragon Emperor tutor of Donghuang Yongwu College has the right to imprison you and prevent you from getting away scot-free to prevent more dragon martial artists from being harmed by you. Cho Jingyun snorted coldly and released her aura. It looked like she intended to forcefully capture Kong Xinmu. At this moment, a voice rang out from the main hall of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. This voice was crisp and beautiful, but there was a hint of laziness in it. It was Linghu Daier. She said, Why are the two teachers of Donghuang in such a hurry? You talk about yours, we talk about ours. I think I believe Kong Xinmu's words more. If you want to take him away, you have to get our permission first. As soon as he finished speaking, a beautiful figure in a red dress walked out from the lobby of the office. She had a gentle smile on her face, but there was a hint of coldness in the depths of her eyes. This coldness was naturally directed at Cho Jingyun and Bien Feng. These two were the Dragon Emperor's mentors, but they had actually participated in the conspiracy to frame Kong Xinmu. Kong Xinmu was now one of the most important students of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. In fact, in the eyes of Headmaster Yu Yaji, he was already one of the hopes of saving the Dragon Martial Continent. Once Kong Xinmu rose and performed well in the Academy Tournament and the Academy Exchange, the Supreme Divine Dragons would very likely look at Kong Xinmu in a different light. This would then bring an opportunity to the Dragon Martial Continent. As long as the Supreme Divine Dragons felt that there was a need to protect the Dragon Martial Continent, then there would definitely be a way to protect it. All they needed was one Supreme Divine Dragon. Therefore, the Dragon Martial Continent naturally had to fight for it and not give up on any possibility. How could they just watch as Kong Xinmu was framed and killed? Ling Hu Daier's appearance caused Cho Jingyun's imposing manner to stagnate, and his whole body even became a little weak. Of course, he knew Ling Hu Daier, and he had even been beaten by her more than once. He was very clear about Ling Hu Daier's strength. With Ling Hu Daier present, other than Zhuo Xiaofeng, no one else would be able to successfully take Kong Xinmu away. And Zhuo Xiaofeng had been warned by Yu Yaji that it was impossible for him to personally deal with Kong Xinmu. As for framing Kong Xinmu this time, all he had to do was say that he didn't know. After all, Zhuo Xiaofeng had not appeared at all, and Yu Yaji had no evidence to find trouble with him. It was not like when Kong Xinmu did not commit any crimes, and Donghuang Yongwu College's Dragon Emperor wanted to deal with him. That was definitely Zhuo Xiaofeng's doing. But this time, Kong Xinmu had betrayed the Dragon Martial Continent and colluded with the Fu Shui tribe. What did such a crime have to do with Zhuo Xiaofeng? When Ling Hu Daier appeared, Bian Feng and Cho Jingyun laughed coldly. They were a little afraid, but Ling Hu Daier obviously would not dare to do anything to them. At most, she would be able to hold the fort. Since the matter has not been clarified, shouldn't the two of you confront Kong Xinmu and the others to prove that what you said is true? Ling Hu Daier glanced at Liang Xiao. She was quite confident in him. She said calmly, "There are only 3 questions. If the two of you can answer them perfectly, it will naturally prove that what you said is true. I will also report this matter to the headmaster and the others and have them make a decision." This was already a considerable concession for her. Humph. The ones facing the accusation are Kong Xinmu and the others. Why do we have to prove it? Bian Feng's expression was still cold. Ling Hu Daier said indifferently, "Just 3 days ago, Kong Xinmu returned with 4 Fu Shui tribe hearts of profoundness. These 4 hearts of profoundness were hunted by his team not long ago. The Fu Shui tribe also recently received news of the death of a female prodigy, which is a perfect match. If Kong Xinmu and the others are colluding with the Fu Shui tribe, why would the Fu Shui tribe allow their female prodigy to die at the hands of Kong Xinmu and the others? Doesn't this contradict what you said?" Cho Jingyun laughed coldly. She did not take this matter to heart. Since he is colluding with the Fu Shui tribe, he naturally has to put on an act. Giving him a few hearts of profoundness is nothing to the Fu Shui tribe. Since Cho Jingyun said so, Ling Hu Daier had no choice but to say, "Then do the two of you intend to answer the questions, or leave? If you do not intend to answer the questions, get your dean here if you want to arrest him. Don't even think about causing trouble in our Emperor Shi Dragon Martial Academy." Since she had already said so, the 2 Dragon Emperor instructors naturally could not refuse. Bian Feng could only snort and say, "Since Instructor Ling Hu has said so, there is nothing we can do. However, if we finish answering all 3 questions, the Emperor Shi Dragon Martial Academy better not go back on their words and hand over Kong Xinmu obediently." "Cut the crap. Let's begin." Ling Hu Daier said calmly, "I will create a soundproof barrier. With my cultivation, the soundproof barrier that I create will prevent the 2 of you from hearing anything outside." She raised her hand, and a soundproof barrier appeared in the middle of the field, like a small bubble. Chapter 4607. The soundproof barrier was divided into 2 layers. The inner layer was completely soundproof. No sound from inside could escape, and no sound from outside could enter. As for the outer layer, it was relatively soundproof. Sounds from inside could travel out, but sounds from outside could not travel in. Because powerful dragon warriors had very strong senses, this wasn't just a soundproof barrier. It also shielded one's senses. In other words, when answering a question, the 2 Dragon Emperor instructors would not be able to sense anything from the outside world, unless Ling Hu Daier herself transmitted the question into the barrier. This way, the possibility of cheating was eliminated. Let's begin. Bien Feng didn't waste any time. He snorted coldly and walked to the center of the soundproof barrier. Then he closed his eyes and rested. At this time, he couldn't sense anything from the outside world. It was time to ask Zhou Jingyun his first question. Zhou Jingyun walked to the outer layer of the barrier and floated there. He closed his eyes and said, "Ask away." He couldn't see anything from the outside world. He couldn't sense any aura from the outside world, and he couldn't hear any sounds from the outside world. Only Ling Hu Dai, could transmit her voice into the barrier. However, every sound Zhou Jingyun made and every movement he made could be clearly heard by everyone in the outside world. Liang Xiao, you can ask your first question now. Ling Hu Dai, didn't take sides. After all, she wasn't sure if Kong Xinmu was colluding with the Talisman Water Tribe. It was hard to say. Her expression was slightly serious as she asked Liang Xiao. Liang Xiao didn't hesitate and immediately asked his first question. First question. According to what you said, we colluded with the Talisman Water Tribe. When we killed Meng Chuan, there were Talisman Water Tribe members surrounding him. Then, may I ask, when did you rescue Lin Shuang? Tell me the exact time. Ling Hu Dai, relayed this question. When Zhou Jingyun, who was on the outer layer of the barrier, heard this question, his expression didn't change at all. He said calmly, 3 days ago, 5:15. All right, let's switch. Liang Xiao narrowed his eyes and waved his hand. It was Bien Feng's turn to answer this question. Very soon, he gave the same answer. 3 days ago, at 5:15. Since they were planning to create something that didn't exist, they must have prepared the people, the time, and the place. They even knew how many people were on Kong Xinmu's side. How many talismans did those waterkind people use? And why they didn't bring Kong Xinmu and the others back when they saved Lin Shuang and the others, and so on. They must have prepared for all these obvious questions. Therefore, Liang Xiao did not intend to ask these questions at all. After hearing their answers, he nodded in satisfaction. Then he asked the second question. I heard that the Dragon Emperor instructors of the 4 Dragon Martial Academies are responsible for patrolling the battlefield to see if there are any powerful individuals who are stronger than the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor. At the same time, there are 4 groups of instructors patrolling the battlefield. Each group has 2 people, and they will patrol the battlefield of the 9 races for a total of 24 hours. They will change shifts every night. Then where were you patrolling in the 2 hours before 5 o'clock? Even Ling Hu Dai, felt that this question was too tricky. This angle was probably something the other party had never thought of, but it was a reasonable question. 4 groups of instructors patrolling the battlefield every day, and each group was patrolling for 24 hours. This was something that had been going on for a long time. Liang Zhao's question hit the nail on the head. Since the other party was fabricating something that didn't exist, it was impossible for them to cover everything. Some of the things they discussed were probably related to the scene and time when Kong Xinmu killed Meng Chuan. At that time, both parties must have been very clear about the details. No matter what Liang Xiao asked, they would be able to give the same answer. However, Liang Zhao's question was too tricky. 2 hours before that happened, where were you patrolling? When Ling Hu Dai relayed this question, Bien Feng answered first. He was stunned at first, then he frowned slightly. Obviously, this question was also beyond his imagination. He did not expect Liang Xiao to ask such a question. In reality, this question had nothing to do with the case. This was what troubled him. The 2 of them had never thought about the answer to this question before this. If they had to think about this question in advance, then they would have too many questions to think about in advance. This was what Liang Xiao had just said. If they wanted to maintain a lie, they had to tell more and more lies and spread them out. They couldn't possibly answer all the questions in advance. Could they? 2 hours before 5:45 p.m., which is 5:45 p.m., Instructor Cho and I were patrolling the battlefield of the demon gods. Bien Feng thought for a moment before answering. He was speaking according to his and Zhou Jingyun's usual patrolling habits. Usually, after patrolling the battlefield of the demon gods, they would head to the battlefield of the water race. Then, it was Zhou Jingyun's turn to answer this question. She came up with the same answer. Patrolling the battlefield of the demon gods. Both questions were quickly and accurately answered by them. Furthermore, their answers were exactly the same, as if they were speaking the truth. However, Liang Xiao was not flustered. He asked the last question unhurriedly. One last question. When the Dragon Emperor instructors patrol the battlefield, they follow a fixed route so that they can finish patrolling the battlefield of the 9 races in the shortest amount of time possible. Therefore, every day, the 4 groups of instructors will meet each other at least once. Every time they meet, it is called a patrolling intersection. It is also convenient for the instructors to supervise each other. At this point, Ling Hu Dai transmitted her voice to Cho Jingyun, who was supposed to answer the question now. The instructor's expression immediately turned ugly. This question was a little far-fetched. Furthermore, it had nothing to do with the scene of Kong Xinmu killing Meng Chuan at all. They didn't check so many things in advance. Liang Xiao continued to ask, "My third question is, before you saw us kill Meng Chuan, when was the last time you met another patrolling intersection? And which 2 Dragon Emperor instructors did you meet?" In other words, before they saw Kong Xinmu colluding with the water race to kill Meng Chuan, when was the last time they met another patrolling Dragon Emperor instructor? And who were they? These questions were actually 2 questions. However, when they were combined into one question, there was no problem at all. Because if what the instructor said was true, then these 2 questions should be easy to answer. But the problem was, they didn't check the answer to this question in advance. When instructor Cho Jingyun heard this question, he was dumbfounded. This question was too far-fetched. Moreover, there were too many answers to this question. They could have answered the question several hours before that. There were 3 other patrolling groups of Dragon Emperor instructors who could have met them. Most importantly, they didn't know who the 3 patrolling groups of Dragon Emperor instructors were. This was because they didn't patrol that day. The patrolling Dragon Emperor instructors weren't them. Who knew who the other 3 groups were and when they would be patrolling intersection? This question caught him off guard. Chapter 4608. Cho Jingyun did not know how to answer at all. It was impossible for him to communicate with Bien Feng now, so he really did not know how to answer such a question that had spread far and wide. However, he and Bien Feng could be considered old friends who had worked together for a long time. His face turned gloomy. He thought for a while and said in a low voice, "At that time, we were only substituting for Donghuang Yanggu College's instructors, Tan Shouzhua and Chu Yueqiang, to go on patrol. Therefore, we saved Lin Shuang and the rest before we encountered the other instructors." Although this answer was a little far-fetched, it was not impossible. Liang Xiao laughed coldly when he heard what he said, then gestured for Bien Feng to answer. In the end, Bien Feng's face also turned gloomy when he heard the question. He immediately answered, "In fact, Instructor Cho and I did not go on patrol that day. We were substituting for the other 2 instructors, so we went out halfway and did not encounter the other instructors." Both of their answers could be considered to be the same. However, Liang Xiao continued to ask Bien Feng, "Then who were the 2 instructors you substituted for?" The instructors from Donghuang Yanggu College who went on patrol that day were Tan Shouzhua and Chu Yueqiang. Bien Feng also said with some reluctance. These 2 were not close to Zhuo Xiaofeng. Once they came over, it was very likely that there would be problems. However, they could not stop it. This was because this matter involved Kong Xinmu, who was a student from Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy. Obviously, they could not take him away just based on their one-sided statement. In that case, it was necessary to investigate clearly. However, they did not expect Liang Xiao to take an unconventional approach and ask such divergent questions, which caught them off guard. In fact, there was no need for Liang Xiao to ask the 2 of them separately. He could directly ask them according to the patrol duty schedule. However, he still did not want to trouble the other instructors from Donghuang Yanggu College to come over. Therefore, he wanted to try to solve this problem first. In the end, Bien Feng and Cho Jingyun seemed to be in the same boat. They gave almost the same answer to questions that had not been agreed upon beforehand. This time, he could only trouble Tan Shouzhua and Chu Yueqiang to come over. Obviously, this matter was hidden from Tan Shouzhua and Chu Yueqiang. After all, everyone knew that Kong Xinmu was Chu Yueqiang's former student. Moreover, Tan Shouzhua was an upright person, while Chu Yueqiang basically didn't care about anything else. If the 2 of them came, the truth would definitely be revealed. Without waiting for Bien Feng and Cho Jingyun to say anything, Ling Hu Dai waved her hand and had her 2 Dragon Emperor instructors set off to call Tan Shouzhua and Chu Yueqiang over. Before long, Tan Shouzhua arrived first. Tan Shouzhua was Chu Ye's teacher. Kong Xinmu was not familiar with Tan Shouzhua, but they had interacted before. Tan Shouzhua had even praised Kong Xinmu during the mission to kill the Liang cat beast, so when Tan Shouzhua heard the news, he quickly rushed over. Although Zhuo Xiaofeng was the dean of Donghuang Yanggu College, Tan Shouzhua was not Zhuo Xiaofeng's subordinate. He was the Dragon Emperor's teacher, so he did not need to be responsible for Zhuo Xiaofeng. So recently, his days in Donghuang Yanggu College were not very good, but he did not care. Anyway, to improve his cultivation realm and break through the grade of the Divine Dragon's inheritance blood essence, the most important thing was to rely on the achievements on the battlefield of the 9 major clans. In the past year, the Dragon Emperor's teachers could not go to the battlefield. But a year later, it would be the battlefield of the Dragon Emperor's teachers. At that time, the fighting would be more intense, and it would be an excellent opportunity for the Dragon Emperor's teachers to improve themselves. Of course, it would be more dangerous. This was because the servants of the 9 major clans basically had not reached the level of the Dragon Emperor's teachers. At that time, the opponents would also be the real clansmen of the 9 major clans. They would either be young geniuses or soldiers with extremely rich combat experience. The opponents that Kong Xinmu and the others were facing could not be compared to them at all. As the dean of Donghuang Yanggu College, Zhuo Xiaofeng naturally did not dare to attack Tan Shouzhua now. After all, both Tan Shouzhua and Chu Yueqiang were experts who were ranked around 100 on the Dragon Emperor list. Their strength was still extremely strong in the Dragon Martial Continent. Most importantly, they were already on the watch list of the Supreme Divine Dragon, the Dragon of Calamity. Therefore, even Zhuo Xiaofeng could not harm them. In contrast, although Chou Jingyun and Bian Feng were Dragon Emperor's mentors, they were too old. Therefore, their talents couldn't match that of Tan Shouzhua and Chu Yueqiang. They didn't even catch the attention of the Blue Sky Tribulation Dragon. Therefore, they could only curry favor with Zhuo Xiaofeng. They were all Dragon Emperor's teachers, but the status of each Dragon Emperor's teacher was completely different. Tan Shouzhua arrived first. Before he came, he already knew what was happening here. He glanced at Kong Xinmu and the others. He was not interested in rescuing Kong Xinmu. After all, Kong Xinmu was not his student. However, before he came here, his student, Chu Yi, had asked him to help. Therefore, Tan Shouzhua naturally would not allow Kong Xinmu to be framed. Moreover, Kong Xinmu was his student. He admired Kong Xinmu very much, and he was also very clear about how important Kong Xinmu's talent was. Now, a large part of the Dragon Martial Continent's fate was placed on Kong Xinmu's shoulders. Once Kong Xinmu was framed and killed, the Dragon Martial Continent's future would be even more uncertain. Moreover, Tan Shouzhua was not alone. He also had relatives, friends, and even a clan in the Dragon Martial Continent. Once Kong Xinmu really rose, the Supreme Dragon God would definitely pay more attention to the Dragon Martial Continent and might even save the Dragon Martial Continent. This was not just Kong Xinmu's matter. Even if it was just for the glimmer of hope for his family, Tan Shouzhua could not just watch them die. Moreover, this matter had nothing to do with Kong Xinmu. Tan Shouzhua came to the scene, and under everyone's expectant gazes he said, 3 days ago, I patrolled with junior sister Chu Yueqiang and did not find anyone to replace us. Chou Jingyun, Bian Feng, your plan is wrong. After saying that, he turned around and left. Bian Feng and Chou Jingyun were trembling with anger. This Tan Shouzhua simply did not take Zhuo Xiaofeng seriously. Usually, although Tan Shouzhua and Chu Yueqiang were not afraid of Zhuo Xiaofeng, there was no need to disobey him. After all, this guy was the dean of Donghuang Yanggu College and nominally still governed them. Now that it was necessary, Tan Shouzhua was not afraid of going against Zhuo Xiaofeng at all. He turned around and left. The expressions of all the spectating dragon martial artists changed drastically. Their faces were filled with shock. Now the truth had been revealed. This Kong Xinmu was really framed. Chapter 4609. Lin Shuang and the others thought that it was inevitable to get rid of Kong Xinmu by cozying up to Zhuo Xiaofeng. Who would have thought that the Dragon Emperor mentors were not so harmonious? Tan Shouzhua, the Dragon Emperor, even dared to disobey Zhuo Xiaofeng. What a joke! If it were not for the fact that Zhuo Xiaofeng could not touch Tan Shouzhua and Chu Yueqiang, The entire Donghuang Yonggu College would have been under Zhuo Xiaofeng's complete control. How could people like Qin Xiaoye and Xueqi, who were on good terms with Kong Xinmu, still be alive? It was because it concerned Tan Shouzhua, Chu Yueqiang, and some other Dragon Emperor mentors who were not afraid of Zhuo Xiaofeng. Qin Xiaoye, Chu Yi, and the others, their Dragon Emperor mentors were all extremely powerful existences. Usually, they would give Zhuo Xiaofeng face. As long as they did not provoke them, they would let it go. However, as long as they provoked them. When I see Sir Supreme Dragon God, wouldn't you, Zhuo Xiaofeng, be in big trouble? Therefore, as the dean, Zhuo Xiaofeng did not have absolute power in Donghuang Yonggu College. Lin Shuang, Bian Feng, Chou Jingyun, and the others were so angry that they wanted to vomit blood. They wanted to frame Kong Xinmu and the others, but they did not expect that not only did they fail, but they also lost face. There were so many people around, at least hundreds of dragon martial artists. Moreover, if word got out, all the dragon martial artists would know. Zhuo Xiaofeng would also reprimand them for not doing their job well. Their status would probably plummet, and the benefits they could get in the future would be unimaginably reduced. Even, they might not be able to get any benefits from Zhuo Xiaofeng and the others. Then, Chu Yueqiang appeared. This teacher Dragon Emperor was still as cold as ever. Although she had a peerless figure and face, her temperament was so cold that no one dared to approach her. She gave off a feeling that she could only be admired from afar. She came to the scene and saw Kong Xinmu. She nodded slightly at him as a greeting. After all, she was Kong Xinmu's Dragon Emperor Menta. When Kong Xinmu left Donghuang Yonggu College, he left her a letter of farewell. The content of the letter was very short, but he thanked mentor Chu Yueqiang many times for taking care of him. Chu Yueqiang had a deep impression of Kong Xinmu. Although she didn't give too many pointers to Kong Xinmu relied on himself to rise. His talent was something that Chu Yueqiang admired very much. Most importantly, she had seen through Kong Xinmu's character. In the Dragon Martial Continent, Kong Xinmu had too many people he needed to care about. The Yen Dragon Emperor dynasty was his birthplace, where his family was located. From how Kong Xinmu risked his life to protect the Yen Dragon Emperor dynasty, Chu Yueqiang knew that Kong Xinmu valued his hometown, the Yen Dragon Emperor dynasty. How could such a man who valued friendship and righteousness collude with the Talisman clan to kill other dragon martial artists? Chu Yueqiang came to the scene and said, "When we were patrolling, we didn't find anyone to replace us." Before Tan Shouzhua left, he reminded Bian Feng and Chou Jingyun that they had made a mistake and should not have followed Zhuo Xiaofeng to murder Kong Xinmu. After all, Kong Xinmu was an important factor in whether the Dragon Martial Continent could be saved. What about Zhuo Xiaofeng? Zhuo Xiaofeng, who had become a super divine dragon, had long been qualified to go to the dragon god's world. With his indifferent character, why would he care about the survival of the Dragon Martial Continent? But other than the deans of the 4 Dragon Martial Academies, the rest of the people in the Dragon Martial Continent had feelings for the Dragon Martial Continent. Even Bian Feng and Chou Jingyun felt the same way. Unfortunately, the two of them still wanted to murder Kong Xinmu for their own selfish interests. To them, they might not want the Dragon Martial Continent to be enslaved, but they still felt that the fate of the Dragon Martial Continent was not something that a little brat like Kong Xinmu could control and influence. In short, they underestimated Kong Xinmu's influence and only treated Kong Xinmu as an ordinary student with some talent. Little did they know that the current Kong Xinmu was of great strategic importance in the eyes of many top experts in the Dragon Martial Continent. With the arrival and departure of Tan Shouzhua and Chu Yueqiang, what they said proved that Bian Feng and Chou Jingyun were lying. They had dragged Lin Shuang and the others to slander Kong Xinmu's team and wanted to kill them. I knew it! Didn't Kong Xinmu's team just bring back 4 profound hearts? Yes, it is indeed the profound heart of the Fu Shui clan. I just confirmed it with the tutor of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. Even if they colluded with the Fu Shui clan and wanted to avoid danger, they did not need 4 profound hearts. It seems that the Fu Shui clan has suffered a great loss in the hands of Kong Xinmu. That's right. Kong Xinmu has made great contributions time and time again. He is our Dragon Martial Continent's lucky star. Many people immediately changed their words. They had always admired Kong Xinmu. Now that Kong Xinmu's suspicions were cleared, their respect for Kong Xinmu was strengthened. Kong Xinmu was highly talented, loyal. He was one of the top experts in the world. Seeing this situation, the plan to frame Kong Xinmu had obviously failed. Bian Feng and Cho Jingyun turned to leave. Their faces were dark and they were in a bad mood. Wait. Suddenly, Kong Xinmu stopped them. Where are Lin Yuji, Qin Fengyu, and Lu Hua now? Don't tell me they have been killed by you? As soon as he said this, everyone's expression changed. Indeed, Lin Shuang and the others had said that their teammates, Lin Yuji and Lu Hua, had been killed by Kong Xinmu. But now, it seemed that this was nonsense. Then the three of them had not returned. Where did they go now? I don't know. We haven't seen them since we parted ways with them. Lin Shuang shook his head helplessly. Haven't seen them? Only a ghost would believe that. Kong Xinmu's expression darkened. He had a bad feeling when he saw the sneers on Bian Feng and Cho Jingyun's faces. Could it be that these two Dragon Emperor mentors had really killed Lin Yuji and the other two in order to pretend that it was true? If that was the case, these two Dragon Emperor mentors deserved to die. They deserved to die 10,000 times over. However, even if Lin Yuji and the other two were really killed by them, Kong Xinmu would not be able to find any evidence. It was almost impossible to verify. You are courting death. Kong Xinmu's heart was filled with anger. His eyes were practically spitting fire. Humph, let's go. Bian Feng and Cho Jingyun glanced at Kong Xinmu. They didn't take him seriously at all. And with Kong Xinmu's current strength, he was no match for these two Dragon Emperor mentors. Lin Yuji and the other two were just students of Donghuang Yonggu College. Kong Xinmu was their old friend, so they paid attention to him. But for the other people of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy and Great Liang's Dragon Emperor, there was no need to care. Anyway, there were dragon martial artists dying every day. The death of a few wouldn't affect the overall situation. However, my son, Liang Luo, is still in Donghuang Yonggu College. This college is really a place of tigers and wolves. Great Liang's Dragon Emperor suddenly sighed. He looked at Ling Hu Dai and asked, "Can you let my son leave Donghuang Yonggu College and join Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy?" These words made many dragon martial artists' hearts tremble. Chapter 46:10. Dragon Emperor of Great Liang's words were like a bomb thrown into the crowd. In fact, there were indeed many students from Donghuang Yonggu College who were disappointed with Donghuang Yonggu College. After the incident of the Dragon Emperor's mentor framing them, many students from Donghuang Yonggu College in the crowd felt even more terrified. Now, the four major Dragon Martial Academies were recruiting students widely. Many Dragon Emperor countries' Dragon Emperor country were selecting geniuses from within the country to join the Dragon Martial Academy. If it was in the past, it would definitely be divided according to region. If the Dragon Emperor country was within Donghuang Yonggu College's territory, the geniuses would have to join Donghuang Yonggu College. If they were within Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy, they would have to join Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. Of course, if they were male geniuses within Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy, they would be allowed to choose the other three Dragon Martial Academies. After all, many of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy's Dragon Martial Arts techniques were more suitable for females to cultivate. The common Dragon Martial Arts techniques were not the essence of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. However, at this stage, the Dragon Martial Continent could be said to be unified, and they were all operating in the Dragon Martial Fortress. Therefore, the Dragon Emperor would decide which Dragon Martial Academy the Dragon Martial Artists wanted to join. As for the four major Dragon Martial Academies, the Dragon Emperor's mentors were attracting talents from all over the place, increasing the number of Dragon Martial Artist students in their respective Dragon Martial Academies. Now that the incident of Donghuang Yonggu College being framed had spread, many Dragon Emperor powerhouses would definitely not want to send their domestic geniuses to Donghuang Yonggu College. As for Liang's Dragon Emperor's son, Liang Luo, he was now a student under Tan Shouzhua. Originally, he was not. However, when Liang Luo was in the Void Crack battlefield, his mentor had sacrificed himself, so he switched to Tan Shouzhua. Therefore, when the Dragon Emperor of Great Liang said that he would let his son, Liang Luo, transfer to Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy, it was only a joke. However, he was not joking around. When he said the sentence, it directly gave a psychological hint to the people around him. That is, even Great Liang Dragon Emperor wanted to transfer his son, it can be seen that Donghuang Yonggu College really can't stay. What would the students of Cho Jingyun and Bian Feng think about it? Their mentor would actually frame someone else's innocence. With such a character, could he still be a teacher? All in all, Donghuang Yonggu College was facing a big crisis. It was very likely that this incident would cause the reputation of Donghuang Yonggu College to plummet. In any case, this had nothing to do with Kong Xinmu. He only knew that if Donghuang Yonggu College really collapsed, he would definitely be happy. That would be great. Zhua Xiaofeng was actually able to bring down Donghuang Yonggu College. It was too amazing. Presumably, the Dragon of Calamity would definitely reward him. The matter was settled this time. Lin Shuang and the other two became the target of public criticism. Kong Xinmu also finally looked at them with a deep warning and threat in his eyes. Now, Lin Yuji, Qin Fengyu, and Lu Hua's lives were unknown. No one knew how they were doing. However, Chu Yueqiang was Qin Fengyu and Lu Hua's mentor, the Dragon Emperor. Now that they were missing, Chu Yueqiang would definitely secretly investigate. Kong Xinmu believed this. Anyway, it was impossible for Kong Xinmu to kill them. Chu Yueqiang also trusted Kong Xinmu's character. Then someone must have deliberately killed Qin Fengyu, Lin Yuji, and Lu Hua in order to frame Kong Xinmu. He didn't know if they were really dead now, or if they were just locked up. After everyone dispersed, Kong Xinmu thought for a while and still let Ling Hu die or pull some strings to inform Chu Yueqiang. Kong Xinmu wanted to investigate this matter together with Chu Yueqiang, but Chu Yueqiang quickly sent back news that Lin Yuji and the other two were not dead, but they were no longer in the Dragon Martial mainland. She told Kong Xinmu not to worry. Everyone had their own opportunities, so there was no need to force them. When Kong Xinmu heard this, he was both worried and relieved. Ling Hu Dai was the messenger. She smiled and said to Kong Xinmu, "I'm afraid Zhua Xiaofeng took them away from the Dragon Martial mainland in order to make them disappear. As for whether they went to the Dragon God's world or the chaotic battlefield, no one knows." In short, since Chu Yueqiang investigated this matter, it means that the three of them are indeed not in danger. Otherwise, the Supreme Dragon God would not have let Zhua Xiaofeng off. Kong Xinmu nodded. Zhua Xiaofeng was the person in charge of Donghuang Yonggu College. He could suppress the students of the Dragon Martial College in secret, but he could not kill them openly. Therefore, Lin Yuji and the other two should have been sent to other places to receive some training. After all, if they did not use some reason, it would be inconvenient for Zhua Xiaofeng to explain to the higher-ups. I hope that Lin Yuji and the other two can find their own opportunities. As for the Dragon Martial mainland, let us protect it. Kong Xinmu knew that Qin Fengyu and Lu Hua each had their own big families in the Dragon Martial mainland. They were both royal geniuses from the Dragon Emperor's country. Now that they had been sent to other places, they must be very worried that the Dragon Martial mainland would be enslaved by the 9 clans. No matter what, Kong Xinmu would definitely not let the 9 clans have their way. According to the mentors, he had to become stronger and stand out in the Academy Tournament and the Academy Exchange. Only then would the Supreme Dragon God pay more attention to the Dragon Martial mainland and send people to protect it. The crowd dispersed. As for Kong Xinmu, he returned to the inner hall of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial College office with Xiao Yuhua and the other 3. Ling Hu Dai called them over. Of course, it was to give them the rewards for this operation. 4 profound hearts of the Fu Shui clansmen, and one of them is a genius of the Fu Shui clansmen. We have already confirmed this. Now, the higher-ups of the Fu Shui clan are flustered and exasperated. Ling Hu Dai smiled and said, "Therefore, there is also a special reward this time. Kong Xinmu, you can choose. One is an Earth-class Divine Dragon weapon, and the other is a high-class Divine Dragon martial technique. The Divine Dragon weapon can be converted into strength immediately, but the Divine Dragon martial technique will take a long time to successfully cultivate. Then I'll choose the high-class Divine Dragon martial technique." Kong Xinmu thought about it and made his decision. An Earth-class Divine Dragon weapon was not too precious to him. After all, he already had one. The black concealing dragonstone was of this grade. Not only could it hide their bodies, but it could also remove any traces of their aura. It was an excellent dragon weapon. Therefore, they currently lacked a truly powerful dragon martial technique. Chapter 46:11. The special reward was a high-level Divine Spirit Dragon martial arts technique. Kong Shinmu could choose one of the 10 high-level Divine Spirit Dragon martial arts techniques. This time, they also exchanged for a lot of Guardian points. These Guardian points, in addition to the Guardian points that the 5 of them had received before, could be exchanged for another high-level Divine Spirit Dragon martial arts technique. A total of 2 high-level Divine Spirit Dragon martial arts techniques. Moreover, they also obtained the storage treasures of the 4 members of the Talisman Water Tribe. There were many good things of the Talisman Water Tribe, including some cultivation resources and some combat weapons that were equivalent to dragon weapons. Adding all these things together, Kong Shinmu chose to exchange them for Guardian points, because they were useless to them. Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy could exchange these items with the powerhouses of the ancient Phoenix clan behind them for cultivation resources that were useful to dragon martial artists. Now that the dragon gods could not care about the situation here, the cultivation resources could only be provided by the ancient Phoenix clan. Otherwise, even if they had Guardian points, they would not be able to exchange them for any cultivation resources. The cultivation resources of the 4 great dragon martial academies were equally scarce. Fortunately, Kong Shinmu had obtained many good things this time. The cultivation resources and combat weapons of the Talisman Water Tribe could be exchanged for many cultivation resources to be provided to the other students of the Emperor Shi Dragon Martial Academy. As for Kong Shinmu and the others, they would save up the Guardian points that they had exchanged for. They did not intend to break through to the next realm. As for the grade of the Divine Dragon's blood essence, it was not an easy matter. It was not just a matter of cultivation resources, but also required time to settle. Therefore, they were not in a hurry. Therefore, they decided to slowly save up the Guardian points that they had recently saved up and exchange them for 5 high-level Divine Spirit Dragon martial arts techniques first. Now they already had 2. They decided that Kong Shinmu would choose one first, and Ran Ran would choose another. Xiao Yuhua, Xiao Bai, and Liang Xiao would wait until the next time they exchanged for high-level Divine Spirit Dragon martial arts techniques. They would give them to Xiao Bai to cultivate first. Anyway, it was only a difference of 1 or 2 months. And for high-level Divine Spirit Dragon martial arts techniques to truly display their power, they would have to cultivate for at least half a year before they could succeed. They directly raised the high-grade Source Dragon martial technique to the high-grade Divine Spirit Dragon martial technique. The difficulty of cultivating it was extremely high. Most likely, by the time all 5 of them had gathered the advanced Divine Spirit Dragon martial techniques, Kong Shinmu, who had obtained the advanced Divine Spirit Dragon martial technique first, would not have been able to successfully cultivate it. After all, the advanced Divine Spirit Dragon martial technique was too difficult to cultivate. Therefore, this time, Kong Shinmu and the others did not exchange any cultivation resources. Regardless of whether it was his cultivation realm or the grade of the Divine Dragon's legacy blood essence, there was not much improvement for the time being. He was only nurturing, brewing, and consolidating his foundation step by step. They had advanced and broken through too quickly. Perhaps they hadn't even unleashed 70% of their full power. Therefore, he had to settle down. Next, Kong Shinmu and Ran Ran went to choose the High Divine Spirit Dragon martial technique. The Advanced Divine Spirit Dragon martial technique was the strongest dragon martial technique that any dragon martial artist below the Super Divine Dragon could cultivate. It was extremely difficult to cultivate and was definitely not something that could be cultivated in a short period of time. However, the earlier one cultivated it, the more benefits there would be. At the very least, when others had just obtained the Advanced Divine Spirit Dragon martial technique, Kong Shinmu and the others had already started cultivating it for a long time. Even if they had not cultivated it to a very high level, they would still be able to execute it. Not to mention other things, even if they had just successfully cultivated the Advanced Divine Spirit Dragon martial technique, its power and effect would be comparable to a peak heaven-grade Origin Source Dragon martial technique. Therefore, this time, Kong Shinmu planned to choose an attack-type Advanced Divine Spirit Dragon martial technique. His current defense was already strong enough. Even if some of his opponent's attacks could seriously injure him and make it hard for him to block them, that was because his foundation was too weak. Under such circumstances, even if he cultivated the Advanced Divine Spirit Dragon martial technique's body-tempering dragon martial technique, the increase in his defense would not reach the level of qualitative change. At most it would double. Moreover, it would be extremely difficult to cultivate. For the Divine Dragon Tyrant body technique, he had expended a lot of cultivation resources to raise it to its current peak heaven grade. One must know that this advanced Origin Source Dragon martial technique was not something that could be cultivated easily. If he wanted to break through to the next realm of the divine dragon tyrant body technique, he would need to supplement some precious materials. These precious materials could not be found in the Dragon Martial continent. They were all obtained by Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy from the Dragon God realm. Therefore, Kong Shinmu had spent a lot of resources in this area. If he cultivated another body-tempering dragon martial technique, he would become stronger. However, because his foundation was not strong enough, there would be a limit to how strong he could become. There are 8 attack-type advanced divine spirit dragon martial techniques here. I need to choose one with the darkness attribute. 9th stage Extreme Dao Dragon Explosion. Kong Shinmu quickly set his eyes on this advanced divine spirit dragon martial technique with the darkness attribute. To him, this should be a rather suitable move. Regarding this, the demonic god ancestor and the black dragon consciousness in his mind did not express any opinion. After all, the demonic god ancestor did not do much research on dragon martial techniques. As for the black dragon consciousness, it could not be bothered with what dragon martial technique Kong Shinmu cultivated. This 9th stage Extreme Dao Dragon Explosion was cultivated by the 9th stage Extreme Dao Dragon Explosion, which was unleashed in the form of dragon breath. Thus, unlike ordinary high-grade divine spirit dragon martial techniques, the cultivation process of the 9th-stage Extreme Dao Flood Dragon Burst was divided into 9 stages from the first stage, not from the human grade to the earth grade, and then from the dragon grade to the heaven grade. The 9th-stage Extreme Dao Roaring Dragon Explosion. Every time a stage was cultivated, its power would double. If all 9 stages were successfully cultivated, the power would increase by 9 times. This was a rather terrifying attack power. One must know that even Xiao Yuhua's Phoenix Dance Burning the Sky and Xiao Bai's Ice Breaking Sky Slash, these advanced origin source dragon martial techniques could only increase the power of their attacks by 2 to 3 times when cultivated to the sacred grade. However, as long as the 9th stage Extreme Dao Dragon Explosion was cultivated to the 3rd stage, it would be able to reach the sacred grade. Moreover, the 9th stage Extreme Dao Dragon Explosion had a great advantage, which was that it could be condensed very quickly. This was a little similar to the water ripple slash that the Fu Shui woman had displayed. The water ripple slash could transform into the 1000 water ripple slash in an instant. The main reason was that this curse technique was too fast. Therefore, the 9th stage Extreme Dao Dragon Explosion was the same. Kong Shinmu could use it several times at the same time. Although the power of each dragon explosion was separated, if they all hit the same point, the power would be extremely strong. If he could cultivate this dragon martial technique to the 9th stage, it would be truly heaven-defying. Kong Shinmu could even instantly kill that Fu Shui woman. Chapter 46-12. Kong Shinmu chose the 9-stage Extreme Dao Hui Dragon Explosion. As for Ran Ran, she chose a special high-level Holy Spirit Dragon martial technique, the Chaotic 10,000 Dragons Heavenly Lock. This special dragon martial technique was usually used to trap enemies. It could trap the opponent and seal the power in their body. However, it could also be used as a defensive type of dragon martial technique. Moreover, its defensive ability was very strong. It was suitable for Ran Ran. As for what the situation was, Kong Shinmu and Ran Ran did not know. Ling Hu Dai, did not tell them either. In any case, even Ling Hu Dai, yearned for the high-ranked divine spirit dragon martial skills that were brought out for them to choose from. She herself had trained in dragon martial skills of this level. Thus, in this aspect, Jiang Shenwu and the others had already reached the level of the Dragon Emperor's instructors. It was just that Kong Shinmu and the others' cultivation level and the grade of the divine dragon blood essence were relatively low. In any case, after choosing 2 high-level Holy Spirit dragon martial techniques, they had to start cultivating them first. Kong Shinmu and Ran Ran went back and cultivated in seclusion for 7 days. In the end, they realized that they had no clue at all. Although they had obtained the cultivation secret manuals, these 2 dragon martial techniques were too high-end and profound. At first, they estimated that they would need a few months to successfully cultivate them. But now, it seemed that it would be quite good if they could successfully cultivate them in a few months. Therefore, they could only give up for now. After all, they were pressed for time. They had to take advantage of this opportunity to go out and kill more opponents. Next, it was time to accumulate experience. Kong Shinmu brought Xiao Yuhua and the other 3 to wander around the battlefield of the 9 major tribes. Relying on the black concealing dragon stone, they wandered around the battlefield of the Talisman tribe, the Void Human tribe, and the demon god tribe. Occasionally, they would encounter some powerful opponents. But most of the time they were just hunting slaves and some members of the 9 major tribes. These members of the 9 major tribes were not weak. Moreover, each of them had experienced the baptism of war. Their battle instincts were extremely strong. However, they were all at the level of ordinary soldiers. They were at the bottom of the race legions of the 9 races. Otherwise, they would not have been sent to this battlefield to die. Ever since 2 geniuses of the Void Human tribe and 1 genius of the Talisman Water tribe had died, the true geniuses of the 9 great tribes rarely came to this battlefield. The 9 races had realized that the martial dragon continent wasn't a place to be trifled with. It also had the ability to resist. Geniuses might be killed if they came out, so they wouldn't come out. Or, like the evil prince, they would send people to guard them. Although the bodyguards couldn't do anything, they could protect the young master when he was about to die and take him away. This way, when Kong Shinmu saw these relatively strong geniuses from the various races, he had no intention of making a move. Since he couldn't kill them anyway, there was no need to expose himself. The existence of hidden black dragonstone was still a secret. At the very least, out of the 9 great races, besides the ancient Phoenix clan, the other 8 races didn't know that Kong Shinmu's team was tyrannical on the battlefield. Once they attacked, it was as swift as a clap of thunder. They killed their target and then used the black concealing dragonstone to hide all traces and auras. On the battlefield of the Void Human tribe, the Talisman Water tribe, and the Demon God tribe, Kong Shinmu's team was very active. This made the 3 races a little angry, but they really couldn't find anyone who attacked them on the battlefield. Sometimes they even set up traps and used bait to lure out the ambushers, but they didn't succeed at all. This was because when Kong Shinmu's team was hidden by the hidden black dragon stone, they could see and feel the surrounding environment. Therefore, ordinary traps couldn't do anything to them at all. 5 months later, Jiang Shenwu's group of 5 had gone back and forth on the battlefield of the 3 major races dozens of times. Every time, they would return with a bountiful harvest. They would choose opponents that were extremely reliable, and after killing them, they would hide and disappear. During this period of time, many things happened in the Martial Dragon Fortress. For example, the students recruited by Donghuang Yonggu College all withdrew, the genius team of the Hidden Dragon martial artist family was completely annihilated, the evil prince of the Demon God tribe openly appeared in the Martial Dragon Fortress, and so on. This series of events made the relationship between the 9 major races and the Martial Dragon continent even more tense. Moreover, according to statistics, the number of dragon martial artists who died in the Martial Dragon continent was definitely more than the number of people from the 9 major races. The 9 major races only lost more slaves. Even the soldiers at the bottom of the army didn't die that much. In any case, the overall loss was much less than the Martial Dragon continent. This was very normal. If they lost more, why would they use this method to compete? Wouldn't it be like letting the Martial Dragon continent reap the benefits? Now that the battle between the 9 major races had reached a climax, many dragon martial artist geniuses were also fighting with no regard for their own safety. Not only did they want to protect their homeland, but they also wanted to improve themselves and strive to reach the level of the Dragon Emperor Mentor. Unfortunately, the possibility of reaching the level of the Dragon Emperor Mentor in the 4 dragon martial academies was at most the 9 top students in the Divine Center district. It was basically impossible for the others to reach the level of the Dragon Emperor Mentor in a short period of time. In these 5 months, Kong Shinmu and the others did not encounter any danger. The power of the hidden black dragon stone was evident. However, their gains were getting less and less. In total, they only managed to let Xiao Bai exchange for an advanced divine spirit dragon martial technique. She was also unable to cultivate it. On the other hand, Kong Shinmu and Ran Ran had finally succeeded in cultivating their respective advanced divine spirit dragon martial techniques. Kong Shinmu could finally use the first stage of the 9 extreme Dao Hui dragon burst. Its power was already 3 times stronger than the void dragon sky raising break he had previously cultivated. This was a huge breakthrough for him. And Ran Ran's chaotic 10,000 dragon sky lock had also made a breakthrough. She had cultivated it to the dragon level. Even when facing Kong Shinmu, she could instantly seal his movements. This advanced divine spirit dragon martial technique was truly powerful. If it was used intentionally, the chaotic 10,000 dragon sky lock could condense countless chains and entangle Ran Ran's entire divine dragon body. The chains of this primal chaos 10,000 dragon sky lock complemented the body of the divine dragon. Ran had cultivated the body-refining dragon martial technique, so the strength of this primal chaos 10,000 dragon sky lock was even stronger. Once trapped, the speed of gathering energy in one's body would be reduced by half. The effect was obvious in battle. Chapter 46:13. If the flow of Kong Shinmu's devouring power was reduced by half, his devouring speed would also be reduced by half. This was a huge weakening for Kong Shinmu. This was also a reminder to Kong Shinmu. In a battle, he had to be wary of his opponent using such means. However, he had not met any decent opponents in the past few months. With his strength, he was almost the strongest after Mentor Dragon Emperor. Not to mention that in the past 5 months, he, Xiao Yuhua, and the others had all consolidated their cultivation and broken through to the next level of the Divine Dragon's Inheritance Blood Essence. Now, Kong Shinmu's Divine Dragon's Inheritance Blood Essence had reached the 3rd level of the Dragon Emperor's inheritance. At this point, Kong Shinmu finally felt that his direct combat strength had reached the level of Yu Tianchong when he first met her. At this level, he could definitely be the first in the Dubhe district. Of course, it was only the former first in the Dubhe district. The current first in the Dubhe district was also in the process of rapid improvement. No one knew what kind of combat strength the students in the Dubhe district had now. Although Kong Shinmu was sure that the students' improvement was not as fast as his, their foundations were much better than his. Therefore, he was not sure if he had caught up to them. Moreover, Kong Shinmu's cultivation realm had also broken through to the 3rd level of the Samsara realm in the past 5 months. This improvement was not too strong, but it had at least improved Kong Shinmu's basic strength. When he used many of his dragon techniques and dragon weapons, they were more powerful than before. Moreover, this cultivation realm was equivalent to the cultivation realm of the demonic god's inheritance and the power of void inheritance. It could increase the strength of both. Recently, Kong Shinmu did not cultivate these 2 inheritances. However, he still found time to go to the demonic god's battlefield to meet up with the emissary sent by Xueqi. Then, the emissary provided him with a lot of cultivation resources to cultivate the demonic god's inheritance, as well as many top-notch desolate god demonic skills. Unfortunately, just like the top-notch Holy Spirit Dragon's martial skills, the current Kong Shinmu's comprehension of the Rage God's devil skills was too low. It was impossible for him to cultivate those top-notch Rage God's devil skills. In these 5 months, Kong Shinmu had only absorbed some cultivation resources from the Demon God race's legacy, allowing his Demon God's legacy to reach the 4th level of the Demon King realm. This was already quite amazing. The 16-winged heavenly demon god's inheritance blood essence that he had obtained was equivalent to the holy demon level inheritance of the holy dragon. But now, in just 5 short months, he had already reached the 4th level of the Demon King level. This was rather fast. Most importantly, Kong Shinmu only cultivated in his spare time, devouring the demon god race's cultivation resources that Xueqi had given him. Otherwise, he would have improved even faster. After reaching this level of demon god's inheritance blood essence, under the guidance of the demon god ancestor, Kong Shinmu could finally cultivate some ordinary devil martial skills. Of course, these devil martial skills did not have any substantial effect on Kong Shinmu. They were only used to train and enhance his understanding of devil martial skills. When Kong Shinmu's understanding of the demon god race's legacy was more or less complete, and when he raised the demon god's bloodline to the demon emperor level, he could almost start cultivating the top-notch Rage God's devil skills. It was not only the Rage God's devil skill secret manuals that Xueqi had given him. Most importantly, it was the demon god ancestor's consciousness in Kong Shinmu's mind. This 16-winged heavenly demon god's consciousness knew too many devil skills. Not to mention the Rage God's devil skills, the demon god ancestor's consciousness could even take out a lot of supreme devil skills. Therefore, when Kong Shinmu cultivated the demon god race's inheritance in the future, it could be said that he had a unique advantage. There was no one more suitable than him. If the Black Dragon's consciousness was willing to teach Kong Shinmu some dragon martial skills, Kong Shinmu's strength in the Divine Dragon's inheritance would be extremely terrifying. Unfortunately, the Black Dragon's consciousness could not be bothered with him and had not appeared much. The demon god ancestor sighed with emotion more than once. How good would it be if he was also proficient in the dragon martial skills? He also persuaded Kong Shinmu more than once to let Kong Shinmu directly cultivate the demon god race's inheritance. When he cultivated to the supreme demon god level, he would be able to go anywhere in the world. In the demon god ancestor's opinion, the supreme demon god level was not too high, and it was relatively easy to reach. In this regard, Kong Shinmu could only blush with shame. The demon god ancestor said that it was relatively easy to reach, but it would still take at least 100 years of effort to have a glimmer of hope. As for less than 100 years, it was absolutely impossible. Of course, with the help of the devouring power, Kong Shinmu also did not know if he could break the rules at a higher level. Anyway, until now, whether it was the demon god race or the dragon god race, there had never been a supreme existence who succeeded in cultivating within 100 years. The most talented demon god race's supreme demon god had cultivated for more than 270 years, which was almost the lifespan of an ordinary dragon martial artist. Only when they reached the level of the Dragon King or even the Dragon Emperor would the dragon martial artist's lifespan be increased. This was because when the divine dragon blood's inheritance grade increased, the dragon martial artist's life essence was also sublimated, transforming into a divine dragon. The increase in the lifespan of a dragon martial artist at the level of the Dragon King was not obvious. Basically, they could live for about 150 years. But after reaching the level of the Dragon Emperor, it was relatively easy to live for 300 to 500 years. When reaching the level of the Dragon Emperor, the dragon martial artist's life form was changing. Naturally, their lifespan would also increase due to the increase in the grade of the divine dragon blood. One had to know that the ancient divine dragon's lifespan was almost unlimited. Now that the dragon martial artist had integrated the divine dragon blood's inheritance, living for a few hundred years was nothing at all. The supreme level was almost the pinnacle of this world, the ruling class. For example, the Emperor Shi Divine Dragon and the Blue Sky Calamity Dragon were all existences of this level. Kong Shinmu was still very far from this level. At the very least, even reaching the level of the Dragon Emperor was just the beginning for Kong Shinmu. If he wanted to break through the level of the Dragon Emperor and become a super divine dragon, he did not know how long it would take. In these 5 months, Kong Shinmu went to the battlefield of the Void Human tribe more often. He chose some Void Human tribe members who did not look too weak to attack and kill. During this process, Jiang Shenwu continuously devoured the power of the Void Human tribe's inheritance of the Void power. This deepened his understanding of the inheritance of the Void power. He also collected many cultivation resources from the Void Human tribe, all of which were devoured by him. This allowed his Void power inheritance to be elevated to a level comparable to the demon god's inheritance. This deepened his understanding of the Void power inheritance. Moreover, as he continuously devoured the Void Human tribe powerhouse's Void martial skills, he began to understand the principles of many Void martial skills thoroughly. Therefore, he began to study his top-notch Holy Void martial skills and heaven-grade Void weapon in depth. Chapter 46-14. Of course, at this stage, Kong Shinmu couldn't use the Void power inheritance or the demon god inheritance. Even Xiao Yuhua and the other 3 didn't know about these 2 inheritances. Kong Shinmu didn't tell anyone about them. After Kong Shinmu successfully cultivated the 9th stage Extreme Dao Hui Dragon Burst, Kong Shinmu's battle prowess had skyrocketed. If he encountered another opponent like the woman from the Fu Shui tribe, he would be able to kill them easily. Of course, if he wanted to kill his opponent, he could only pretend to be injured and devour enough energy to kill his opponent in one fell swoop. If he were to rely solely on the 9-stage Extreme Dragon Explosion, the other party might not be a match for him. However, when he saw that he was no match for him, he would definitely flee immediately. Why would he stay and wait for death? Unless Jiang Shenwu was able to cultivate the high-grade Divine Spirit Dragon martial technique to the 6th layer. If that was the case, he would be able to unleash the 6th layer of the Black Dragon Explosion. With the 6th layer, he would be able to destroy the water god image of the Water Tribe's woman in one fell swoop. Of course, Xiao Yuhua and the other 3's dragon bloodline essence blood had also increased by 1 stage. Xiao Yuhua and Xiao Bai had reached the 4th stage of the Dragon Emperor Hui dragon bloodline, while Yang Xiao and Ran Ran had reached the 3rd stage of the Dragon Emperor Hui dragon bloodline. This had greatly improved their strength. However, their cultivation was still stuck at the 4th stage of the Samsara realm. They felt that if they broke through now, they still wouldn't be able to defeat the 2nd Samsara beast and condense the Samsara power. Half a year had passed since the 9 major races had come to the void above the martial dragon continent and made the bet. During this half a year, only dragon martialists below the 5th stage of the Dragon Emperor Hui dragon bloodline could participate in the battle. The 9 major races were the same. Neither side had violated the agreement. However, there were times when experts at the level of the Dragon Emperor's mentors or experts from the opposing races would appear to save their race's important geniuses. This wasn't considered a violation of the agreement. Some losses couldn't be borne by either side, so both sides had tacitly agreed to this rule. Over the past half a year, Kong Xinmu and the other 4's battle achievements could be said to be extremely illustrious among the Martial Dragon Fortress Dragon Martialist team. Because they had killed so many people, Kong Xinmu's name had even reached the ears of the higher-ups of the ancient Phoenix clan. How could the ancient Phoenix clan possibly care about the dragon martial artists of the Martial Dragon continent? They were only cooperating with the Emperor Shi Dragon Martial Arts Academy for the sake of the Emperor Shi Divine Dragon. After all, this matter did not bring any harm to them. However, they did not expect that Kong Xinmu, a student of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy, would be able to repeatedly kill the experts of the Talisman Water Tribe, the Virtual Human Tribe, and the Demon God Tribe. To the ancient Phoenix clan, the setbacks of these 3 races were quite pleasing. Therefore, when rewarding Kong Xinmu, they were not stingy. Many good things were given to Kong Xinmu. Unfortunately, Kong Xinmu did not accept any of them. He only exchanged them for Guardian Points and then exchanged them for high-grade Holy Spirit Dragon martial techniques. In half a year, Kong Xinmu and the others had obtained 3 high-grade Holy Spirit Dragon martial techniques. They were still 2 away from their goal. Moreover, Kong Xinmu and the others still had 5 Phoenix Spirit Fire Gems. Phoenix Spirit Fire Gems were of great help in raising one's cultivation level. To the ancient Phoenix clan, it was a very precious item. Kong Xinmu and the others each had 1 Phoenix Spirit Fire Gems. They temporarily stored them and did not use them. The Phoenix Spirit Fire Gems could be used once a month, but Kong Xinmu and the others were not in a hurry. Xiao Yuhua and the others were stuck at the 4th tier of the Samsara realm. When their strength reached a certain level, they would try to break through to the 5th tier. As for Kong Xinmu, he felt that he had broken through too quickly and it was difficult for him to consolidate the strength within his body. Thus, he temporarily gave up on such a rapid increase. In Jiang Xinwu's opinion, he had raised his cultivation realm by 1 level and the grade of the Divine Dragon's Inheritance Blood Essence by 1 level in the past half a year. This rate of improvement was relatively fast. In addition, he had yet to consolidate a lot of his strength when he broke through previously. As a result, the power he could unleash now was probably only 60% of his full strength. If he could consolidate the strength within his body, his strength might nearly double. And to consolidate the strength within his body, the best way was to fight. Fight without end. Before, the Dragon's Car Blood Pendant could help him consolidate his strength. But, Kong Xinmu was too lazy to prepare a new dragon weapon for the sake of consolidating his strength. This sort of dragon weapon wasn't rare, but it was quite expensive. Kong Xinmu didn't want to waste Guardian Points. He chose to fight without end. This way he could consolidate his strength. On this day, Kong Xinmu set off again with Xiao Yuhua and the others. Recently, the situation in the Dragon Martial Fortress had been a little tense. There were rumors that there were already dragon warriors attacking their own people on the battlefield of the 9 major races. That was probably like the evil prince, who had reached some kind of agreement with the dragon warriors. In this case, the dragon warriors would help the other party kill the dragon warriors in exchange for cultivation resources in the other party's race. It was much easier for the dragon warriors to kill dragon warriors than to kill the people of the 9 major races. Therefore, it was normal for someone to be tempted. Unfortunately, no one knew who it was. There's still half a year left. I have to consolidate my strength and reach the 4th level of the Dragon Emperor. I have to become the first in the Dubhe district in the Academy tournament. Kong Xinmu set a goal for himself. The students in the Dubhe district of the 4 Dragon Martial Academies were basically the students in the Dubhe district or even the Dubhe district before the Void Chasm appeared. The original students in the Dubhe district and some in the Dubhe district had already reached the level of the Dragon Emperor mentors. This included Feng Legay, Gu Yuxing, Yu Tianchong, and the others. They couldn't step onto the battlefield this year, but 1 year was enough for them to cultivate their dragon martial skills to a whole new level, which was enough for their combat strength to skyrocket. On the battlefield of the Virtual Human Tribe, Kong Xinmu led the 4 of them and hid within the concealment range of the Black Hidden Dragon Stone. They wandered in the void leisurely. Now the surroundings were filled with the aura of the virtual human tribe and the aura of many dragon warriors. They were all mixed together, and a lot of the smell of blood spread in the void. There had been too many killings in the past half a year. Many dragon warriors had died, and even more of the void spirit beast slaves of the virtual human tribe had died. However, after the two geniuses were killed, the members of the virtual human tribe had not appeared much. It was basically the void spirit beasts who gathered information on the battlefield. Unless there was a specific target, the extremely strong members of the virtual human tribe would appear and kill all the dragon warriors in one fell swoop. This kind of situation was very rare. Therefore, because Kong Shinmu had killed two geniuses, the virtual human tribe had been shrinking back. Now, among the 9 major races, they could be said to be the race with the lowest score. They were undoubtedly at the bottom. Kong Shinmu didn't want the members of the virtual human tribe to leave the battlefield early. If he wanted to cultivate the power of the void, he had to start from the battlefield of the virtual human tribe. Chapter 46:15. The hidden Kong Shinmu's group of 5 were like 5 ferocious tigers, ready to pounce at any moment. The virtual human tribe, demon god tribe, and talisman water tribe had been at a disadvantage for half a year. The concealed black dragon stone was an earth-grade divine spiritual dragon weapon. It was a must-have item on the battlefield of the 9 great tribes. In the past half a year, they had not met anyone who could see through the concealed black dragon stone's concealment. However, Kong Shinmu felt a little uneasy today. Ever since he entered the virtual human tribe's battlefield, he kept feeling that someone was watching him. The fusion of the Nightmare Ink Beast's abilities was getting deeper and deeper. Kong Shinmu's concealment ability had increased, and so had his senses. However, he could not detect any signs of anyone around him. Under the concealment of the concealed black dragon stone, Liang Xiao and the others did not speak and focused on their surroundings. Although this had been going on for half a year, the 4 of them were still as cautious as Kong Shinmu every time they went out to battle. After all, they were treading on thin ice here. One careless mistake and they could die here. They did not want to lose their lives because of a moment of carelessness. If there was anything to say it in the martial dragon fortress. After coming to the battlefield, fighting was the only thing they had to do. The 5 of them continued forward. Although they were flying in the air, it was still relatively slow. Just as the 5 of them were concentrating, 5 dragon martialists suddenly appeared in front of them. To be more precise, it was the bodies of 5 dragon martialists. They were corpses that had lost their lives and seemed to have been cut into several pieces by the void power. The corpses of the 5 dragon martialists had been cut into several pieces and thrown into the air. If not for the fact that they were all of different attributes, it would be difficult to tell which parts belonged to which martialist. It was because of the different colors of the corpses that Kong Shinmu could tell at a glance that 5 martialists had died there. It looks like they've been dead for a long time. Kong Shinmu sighed and thought to himself. In the past, when they saw a martialist dragon's corpse, they would definitely help collect it and bring it back to the martial dragon fortress. Martialists who died on the battlefield of the 9 races generally wouldn't leave behind a dragon heartbone. Kong Shinmu and the others flew to the front. They were still wrapped in the black concealing dragon stone, and they observed the corpses of the 5 dragon martial artists. Indeed, they had lost their dragon heartbones. They must have been taken away by the illusory human race as battle achievements. Kong Shinmu's eyes were filled with anger. Just as he was about to collect the corpses of the 5 dragon warriors, something strange happened. The void around their concealing black dragon stone suddenly twisted. In the distorted void, countless void blades appeared, directly sweeping towards Kong Shinmu and the others, slashing down violently at lightning speed. The lethality of each of these void blades was not any weaker than the water ripple slash from before. They could even slice the current Jiang Shinwu into pieces. Dragon transformation. Sunset shadow flowing flash. Kong Shinmu decisively gave up on the corpses of the 5 dragon martial artists in front of him. He hadn't let his guard down, and now he reacted immediately. The power of the sunset shadow flowing flash brought everyone through the void instantly. Together with the concealing range of the black concealing dragonstone, they traveled tens of thousands of feet away. Immediately after, they saw the corpses of the 5 dragon martial artists in the void where they were just now being cut into pieces by the void blades. Not even their bones were left. Someone was ambushing Kong Shinmu. Kong Shinmu's expression changed, but he was extremely calm on the inside. HM? Impressive. Impressive. You actually dodged it. What a pity. You will all die today. A strange voice came from the void in front of them. Immediately after, a young illusory human race wearing a blue robe walked out of the void. This young illusory human wore a blue robe that was embroidered with many void totems. The patterns were clear and mysterious, and contained a mysterious aura and power. There was no white in his eyes. His entire eyeball was pitch black, and he looked shocking. He was like a messenger who had walked out of hell. A genius expert of the illusory human race. As for who he was, Kong Shinmu didn't know. In any case, the other party's pitch-black eyes stared at where Kong Shinmu and the others were hiding with the black concealing dragon stone. Obviously, the other party could clearly see where Kong Shinmu and the others were hiding. Moreover, the other party was very strong. His first move was comparable to the water ripple slash of the talisman water tribe woman. It was similar to the 1000 water ripple slash, but its power was comparable to the water ripple slash. It was clear that this person was extremely powerful. Illusory Power Inheritance, Emperor Level 4, Reincarnation Tribulation Realm Peak. This was the strongest person who could enter the battlefield of the 9 tribes. There are a few ruling families in the illusory human race. Our dragon martial continent is just a small place. It's impossible for the ruling family's geniuses to come here. However, this guy in front of us is probably a second-class family genius of the illusory human race. He's much stronger than those hidden dragon martial artist families. Kong Shinmu's expression darkened. Since the black concealing dragonstone was useless against the other party, he simply cancelled the black concealing dragonstone's concealment effect. Then, he, Xiao Yuhua, and the others all transformed into dragons and prepared for battle. You're the ones who killed my younger brothers, right? I didn't think that the small dragon martial continent would have such troublesome existences like you. The pitch-black young illusory human raceman's eyes were filled with mockery. It was as if he wasn't facing dragon martial artist geniuses, but 5 little chicks. In his opinion, Kong Shinmu and the others could not withstand a single blow. Of course, before I kill you, you must know who killed you. My name is Susan Luo. The young illusory human raceman said calmly. Susan Luo was his name. The first 2 illusory human race geniuses that Kong Shinmu and the others had killed were Su Senluo's younger brothers. Both of them had died in a small place like the Dragon Martial Continent. This had enraged Susan Luo greatly. However, he had been training outside at that time and had not heard of this matter. Just half a month ago, Susan Luo had returned from training and heard about this matter. He had also learned that the murderer who had killed his younger brothers had not been caught. This had enraged him greatly, so he had personally come to this battlefield to wait and search. There was no need to doubt Su Senluo's strength. Among the entire younger generation of the illusory human race, he could be considered an extremely tyrannical existence. In the chaotic battlefield, he had even killed a dragon martial artist who was on the same level as the Dragon Emperor's mentor. At most, he would be on par with a powerful existence at the 7th level of the Dragon Emperor realm. Moreover, his eyes could see through all illusions in the world. The concealment effect of the black concealing dragonstone was practically non-existent in his eyes. It was completely useless. Susan Luo introduced himself as he approached Kong Shinmu and the others. Chapter 46:16. Susan Luo was extremely powerful. This could be seen from this person's aura. I'm afraid this person is a top-notch powerhouse among the younger generation of the Void Human tribe. If I'm alone, I'm definitely no match for him. Kong Shinmu was almost certain of this, because he felt that his opponent's attack was indestructible. If it landed on him, he would definitely die. This time, Kong Shinmu was definitely in danger. However, because Susan Luo was extremely powerful, Kong Shinmu guessed that there should be no other Void Human tribe members around. Just from his expression, Susan Luo was extremely arrogant. Why would he let anyone secretly protect him? However, Kong Shinmu did not dare to take the risk. If he used all his trump cards, he could, of course, resist Susan Luo. However, if he did not use some of his trump cards, he was definitely no match for Susan Luo. Of course, Kong Shinmu was not alone now, so he could still try to resist Susan Luo head-on. There was no doubt that Kong Shinmu's defense was extremely strong, but his opponent's attack was even stronger. If they wanted to resist Su Senluo's attack, the five of them had to work together. However, during this process, they had to be careful not to be sneak attacked. After all, the Void Human tribe was good at concealment and sneak attacks. If Su Senluo went around Kong Shinmu to attack the others, they might not be able to resist. Fortunately, Kong Shinmu's Wind Shadow Flowing Cloud Flash had already been cultivated to the dragon level. The Wind Shadow Flowing Cloud Flash that had reached the dragon level allowed him to use this move as if it was his own arm. He would not feel the slightest sluggishness. Furthermore, after using it once, he could almost immediately use it again. It would not be a problem for him to help block some attacks. Su Senluo approached step by step. He looked rather small. After all, he was just a human. However, as he approached, a huge black shadow appeared behind him. It was the Void God Totem. The inheritance of Void Power was to summon the Void God Totem. If one wanted to use the power of Void Power, they had to use the Void God Totem. The Empty God Totem was similar to the Water God Shadow. It was a powerful force that covered their bodies. As long as the Empty God Totem existed, external forces would not be able to harm them. The effect of this faux God Totem was no less than that of the Water God Shadow. It was similar to how Kong Shinmu and the others transformed into divine dragon bodies. Without the Void God Totem, the Void Human tribe could only unleash less than 30% of its inherited power. This was why Kong Shinmu had been able to kill 2 Void Human tribe geniuses. Those 2 geniuses of the virtual human tribe were indeed killed by me. I didn't expect them to be your younger brothers. I'm sorry. When Kong Shinmu saw the other party approaching, he became vigilant and said calmly. That was what he said, but how was there any hint of apology in his tone? This caused Su Senluo's expression to become somewhat unsightly. You're courting death. As soon as he finished speaking, the Void God Totem behind him suddenly erupted. A wave of void power swept toward Kong Shinmu and the others like a tsunami. It was like a dark storm that covered the sky. The void power formed a tsunami that surged from the void. It contained an endless destructive power of the void. Defend! When Kong Shinmu saw this, he immediately shouted. Then, he activated all the offensive battle patterns on the Blizzard Dragonstone and unleashed a Blizzard Rampage. Although this Blizzard Rampage Tyrannosaurus Dragon technique was not very strong, it covered a large area. Moreover, it could freeze the void. Even if it could not completely block the other party's attack, it could still slow down the other party's attack. Then, Kong Shinmu unleashed a 9-stage ultimate roaring dragon explosion. This advanced divine spirit dragon technique was the strongest dragon technique that a dragon martial artist could cultivate before becoming a super divine dragon. At this moment, although Kong Shinmu had just successfully cultivated it, it already had some initial power. With just one move, a terrifying dark devouring power gathered and formed a dragon's breathlight wave. In an instant, it shot toward the void in front of him and then exploded. Kong Shinmu's instantaneous reaction allowed him to explode with 2 moves. He quickly integrated them into the other party's attack, causing the other party's attack to be forcefully blocked. Then, Xiao Yuhua and the other 3 also used their own techniques. Phoenix Dance Incineration of the 9 Heavens, Sky-Splitting Ice Slash, Dragon Blood Meteor Explosion, Ran's Human-Level Divine Spirit Dragon Weapon, Darkness Screen, and Xiao Yuhua's Defensive Divine Spirit Dragon Weapon, Flaming Feather Storm Ball. The combined strength of the 4 was even stronger than Kong Shinmu's explosion. At this moment, they directly exploded in the other party's void power tsunami. Their combined attack directly blasted a huge hole in the other party's void power tsunami. When the void power tsunami swept over, it just so happened that Kong Shinmu and the others dodged the attack through the hole. The entire void power tsunami rolled over and actually did not harm Kong Shinmu and the others at all. Continue! Kong Shinmu did not hesitate at all. He immediately exploded with all his strength. The 9th stage Extreme Roaring Dragon Explosion exploded once again. This time, it directly blasted towards Su Senluo. However, unexpectedly, Su Senluo, who saw that his attack did not have any effect, did not look disappointed at all. Instead, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Facing Kong Shinmu's attack this time, his entire person dissipated from the battlefield. He disappeared? It's a type of divine void technique. Kong Shinmu's devouring power exploded in all directions. He had already taken the opportunity to devour a lot of void power, which came from the void power tsunami condensed by the other party. This time, when the other party disappeared from the battlefield, Kong Shinmu immediately reacted. His eyes focused to the limit and probed the surroundings. Only then did he finally discover a hidden figure rapidly traversing through the void and approaching Liang Xiao. Su Sanluo was going to sneak attack Liang Xiao. Liang Xiao did not notice at all. He was still looking left and right to prevent others from sneaking up on him. However, he did not know that he had already become a target. Liang Xiao, right side, defend. Kong Shinmu shouted, and his entire body, which was thousands of feet long, swept out. After the wind shadow flowing cloud flash erupted, he instantly traversed to Liang Xiao's right side. Immediately after, an extremely hidden void blade landed on Kong Shinmu's body. This void blade contained an incomparably terrifying destructive power. It was originally intended to kill Liang Xiao in a single blow. However, Kong Shinmu flashed over and blocked it. Kong Shinmu's perception was extremely strong. Coupled with the fact that he had cultivated the wind shadow flowing cloud flash to the dragon level and his comprehension of the wind shadow flowing cloud flash from the extreme sage realm, he was able to quickly provide support. At this moment, Kong Shinmu felt as though his soul was being sliced apart. The power of the void god totem exploded within his divine dragon body. Kong Shinmu's defense was already very strong. At this moment, he even displayed a defensive stance. The power of the divine dragon tyrant body technique covered his entire body, blocking the attack. However, this void blade's destructive power was too strong. Chapter 46-17. Kong Shinmu's defensive abilities were considered heaven-defying among dragon warriors of the same cultivation level. However, at this moment, he was actually unable to resist Su Sanluo's attack at all. If he hadn't devoured the void energy just now, then he would have probably been sliced into two by that void blade. Kong Shinmu had devoured a portion of the other party's void tsunami, and used it to strengthen his own resistance against the power of the void. This had always been the function of the devouring power. Even now, to Kong Shinmu, it was still one of the strongest characteristics of the devouring power. Why was his defense so strong? Most importantly, it wasn't because he had cultivated many body-tempering dragon martial arts techniques. Instead, it was because the devouring power could devour all kinds of power and strengthen one's resistance against that power. This was the case for Kong Shinmu now. After strengthening his resistance against the power of the void, his black dragon body was almost cut in two by the void blade. However, it was still a little short. The void blade's power was completely devoured by Kong Shinmu's divine dragon body. Kong Shinmu's devouring power was already the power of samsara. No matter what item or power it devoured, it was extremely fast. Before the void blade could cut Kong Shinmu in two, Kong Shinmu completely devoured it and turned it into his own power. Liang Xiao's cultivation level and inherited essence blood weren't too high. At least, they weren't considered much to Su Sanluo. Therefore, the void blade that he had condensed to kill Liang Xiao wasn't his strongest power. In fact, it only contained half of his power. However, this half of his power had almost cut Kong Shinmu in two. Kong Shinmu was fine, but if it had been Liang Xiao, he would have been killed by this sneak attack. However, when Kong Shinmu flashed over to block the void blade for him, Liang Xiao and the others immediately reacted. Die! The dragon blood meteor explosion was unleashed, and a terrifying force exploded in the void. Liang Xiao only saw a blurry silhouette of Su Sanluo, but he believed that that was where Su Sanluo was. Thus, the dragon blood meteor blast blasted in that direction. Blood splattered across the entire void. The phoenix dance of the burning nine heavens and the heaven-splitting ice slash arrived almost at the same time. The high-grade origin dragon martial skills that they cultivated had all been cultivated to the sacred level. Therefore, they were much stronger than the high-grade divine spirit dragon martial skills that they had just cultivated. Furthermore, Xiao Yuhua and Liang Xiao had yet to cultivate the high-grade divine spirit dragon martial technique. At this moment, the attacks that they had unleashed were not too strong. However, when added together, they possessed half of Su Sanluo's strength. Void Black Hole. When Su Sanluo saw their power condense, he snorted coldly. His figure became faintly discernible, and the void god totem behind him suddenly released a dark blue light. A dark blue power black hole condensed in front of him. The edges of the black hole were dark blue. This was an extremely powerful high-grade divine void martial skill. It was said that it could devour any power or item, causing them to dissipate in an alternate dimension. When Kong Shinmu saw the void black hole that his opponent had unleashed, his expression changed slightly. This void black hole was equivalent to the high-grade divine spirit dragon martial skill. It was the strongest divine void martial skill below the transcendent grade. Kong Shinmu had seen the cultivation manual for the void black hole among the spoils of war from the 2 void human tribe clansmen. The 2 geniuses that Kong Shinmu had killed were Su Senluo's younger brothers. Therefore, it was normal for them to cultivate the same divine void martial skill. This made Kong Shinmu's heart tremble. He suddenly unleashed an extremely violent devouring power. A pitch-black waterfall-like power swept out and enveloped the entire void black hole. The moment the void black hole condensed, it devoured the attacks of Xiao Yuhua and the other 3. Like a stone sinking into the sea, it disappeared without a trace. The 4 of them were shocked when they saw the void black hole. However, Kong Shinmu immediately attacked. An endless devouring power enveloped the area and started to devour the power of the void black hole. Logically speaking, the void black hole had the power to devour all things. Any power that came close to it would be devoured. However, now that Kong Shinmu's devouring power had descended, the void black hole was devoured by the devouring power. What? Su Senluo did not expect such a situation at all. His originally confident face immediately revealed a shocked expression. It was too shocking. The void black hole was the strongest devouring power in the world, right? Forget about cultivators of the same level. Even cultivators who were several levels stronger than Su Senluo would be swallowed up by the black hole of nothingness. Right now, Jiang Shenwu's divine dragon blood essence was only at the 3rd level of the Dragon Emperor realm, 1 level lower than Su Senluo. As for his cultivation base, it was only at the 3rd level of the rebirth tribulation state. There was a difference of 6 levels between him and Su Senluo, who was at the peak of the 9th level. What kind of difference was this? However, the void black hole condensed by Su Senluo was actually devoured by Kong Shinmu's power. What was going on? The void black hole. This guy has already cultivated the void black hole to the peak of heaven tier. It's a pity it hasn't reached the saint tier. I'm not greedy. It's good enough that I was able to devour this power. Kong Shinmu planned to use up all this power. This way, his understanding of the void black hole would increase like the sun in the sky. After mastering the void black hole, he would also have some understanding of other holy void techniques. In the end, he would be able to use the 2 heaven-tier void weapons and cultivate those high-level holy void techniques. This was considered his auxiliary inheritance. The difficulty of cultivating it was double that of ordinary void human tribe members. However, to Kong Shinmu, he had the devouring power, so he was not worried about the difficulty of cultivating it. It would be fine if it was twice as difficult. Of course, if it was 10 times as difficult, the impact would be huge. However, if it was twice as difficult, Kong Shinmu did not think it would be too much of a problem. The void black hole and the dark blue power that was enveloped by the void black hole were quickly devoured by Kong Shinmu's devouring power. However, when the black hole of nothingness had about 30% of its power left, Su Senluo immediately reacted. He did not hesitate at all, and the void god totem around him erupted with the strongest light of void power at that moment. At the same time, a void weapon appeared in Su Senluo's hand. He had come here to avenge his brother. Now that an opponent that could devour the void black hole had appeared, he naturally could not treat Kong Shinmu as an ordinary opponent. He planned to kill Kong Shinmu once and for all. Void weapon, void heavenly plate. A stone plate that looked like a clock appeared in his hand. It contained an unparalleled power of specter, causing the surrounding void to show signs of distortion the moment it appeared. Clearly, this was a top-grade specter weapon. Chapter 46-19. The power of Ling Yun's protective ring converged into a layer of barrier, completely protecting Jiang Shenwu and the other 4. Before this, Kong Shinmu released all of his devouring power and engulfed the incoming attack of the virtual endless world. Then, he continuously devoured it and turned it into Kong Shinmu's own strength. The virtual god's judgment was a top-notch holy void technique that could even distort space and kill its enemies. This technique even caused the barrier of the ring to distort a little. However, in the end, the power of the ring was still able to block all of the attacks. It wasn't able to harm Kong Shinmu and the other four. In just a short while, Kong Shinmu's devouring power had already devoured half of the virtual god's judgment's power around him. His understanding and feelings of this top-notch holy void technique instantly surged into Kong Shinmu's mind. How good would it be if I could always have an opponent like this to fight against? Kong Shinmu felt that it wouldn't be long before he could truly start cultivating the holy void technique. Now, although he had gained a lot of understanding and feelings, he still needed more understanding in order to successfully cultivate the two holy void techniques. It was very difficult for him to gain these understandings by himself in a short period of time. Therefore, if he wanted to quickly cultivate the holy void technique, he still had to rely on the devouring power. No matter what, after Kong Shinmu devoured half of the opponent's virtual god's judgment's power, the remaining power of the opponent's attack didn't pose much of a threat to them anymore. Moreover, from the black hole of nothingness and the virtual god's judgment, Kong Shinmu had already devoured enough power. He wasn't sure if this power could kill his opponent, but he couldn't wait any longer. Kill! Before the opponent's power was completely devoured, Kong Shinmu completely gathered the power he had devoured and formed a virtual god's judgment. Through devouring, he had a deep understanding of this holy void technique. Although he couldn't perform it himself, it was easy for him to devour the opponent's energy to perform it. Suddenly, the space around him started to distort. Susan Luo hadn't expected that such a situation would occur. His technique had been blocked by his opponent, and his opponent had actually used the exact same technique against him. Humph! This void god's adjudication was Susan Luo's own holy void martial technique. How could he possibly die under this technique? He immediately decided to defend. However, right after that, he felt his heart palpitate. Wisps of demon chi emanated from his surroundings. Then, one after another, pitch-black demonic orbs appeared out of thin air. These demonic orbs contained an extremely powerful demonic aura and released the power to seal the void. Heavenly demonic orbs. This was the top-notch desolate god demonic weapon that the little princess of the demon god tribe, Xueqi, had. Now, it belonged to Kong Shinmu. With his demon god ancestor's consciousness, he could activate this demonic weapon without any hindrance. Although the grade of Kong Shinmu's demon god bloodline was not high, with the help of the demon god ancestor, the heavenly demonic orb could still explode with greater power. The heavenly demonic orb exploded. A terrifying sealing force enveloped Susan Luo, sealing all the power in his body and preventing him from using it. At the same time, his empty god totem was surrounded by distorted space. Then, unable to resist, Susan Luo could only watch helplessly as his void god totem was instantly destroyed by the attack of the void god's judgment. His virtual god totem only lasted for 3 breaths of time before it completely collapsed along with the distorted space. Then, his body was completely crushed by the distorted space. He did not even have the slightest chance to struggle. The illusory human tribe's power came from the illusory totem condensed from the inheritance of the illusory power. When the illusory totem was destroyed, the illusory human tribe would not be able to unleash much of its power. As a result, the illusory human tribe was killed by his own judgment of the illusory god. As Susan Luo died, his body completely shattered, leaving only a void spirit pill in his body. This represented the condensation of all his cultivation power. The power of the virtual god's judgment exploded and quickly calmed down. The surrounding distorted space returned to normal. Kong Shinmu and the other 4 flew out together and quickly collected Su Senluo's void spirit pill. They also collected the heavenly oasis disc that he had just used. As for the other cultivation resources on him, Kong Shinmu did not stand on ceremony. He stored them in the storage space of the heavenly oasis disc. After taking it away, Jiang Shenwu immediately brought Xiao Yuhua and the other 3 away through the instant demon ring. Before leaving, he used the concealing black dragon stone to erase all traces of Su Senluo's aura. This ensured that no one would be able to tell how Su Senluo had died and who had killed him. All of this had been done without anyone knowing. After all, Kong Shinmu had already checked the surroundings to see if anyone was spying on them. However, he had not found anyone. Furthermore, if someone had been spying on them, someone would have definitely come to save Su Senluo when he was about to die. However, no one had. Therefore, Su Senluo had died on the battlefield of the Dragon Martial Continent like his 2 younger brothers. Furthermore, it could be said that he had died in vain. He did not even know who had killed him. In the silent void, Kong Xinmu led Xiao Yuhua and the other four and appeared in the void not far away from the martial dragon fortress. We've gained a lot this time. Liang Xiao was a little excited. This Su Senluo's status in the void human tribe must be very high and very powerful. I'm afraid that many of our Dragon Emperor instructors are no match for him. Now that we've killed him, all the credit will go to Brother Jiang. Xiao Yuhua nodded in agreement. Kong Xinmu, all our gains this time belong to you. We don't need them. You can directly exchange them for better cultivation resources to increase your cultivation base. Kong Xinmu thought for a moment and nodded. In the past half a year, all their guardian points had been divided equally. Or rather, most of them had been used to exchange for advanced divine spirit dragon martial techniques. According to their estimations, the guardian points they could obtain from killing Su Senluo would probably be enough to exchange for 1.5 advanced divine spirit dragon martial techniques. Let's first ask what kind of person this Su Senluo is before considering how to distribute the guardian points. As Kong Xinmu spoke, he thought about it. If their gains this time could be exchanged for 2 advanced divine spirit dragon martial techniques, he would definitely choose to let the other 2 choose an advanced divine spirit dragon martial technique and cultivate it first. Although cultivating an advanced divine spirit dragon martial technique was very difficult, and it would still take a long time for them to develop their combat strength, it was precisely because of this that they had to prepare advanced divine spirit dragon martial techniques as soon as possible. Chapter 46-20. If it weren't for Xiao Yuhua and the others, Kong Xinmu wouldn't have been able to kill Su Senluo so easily. This time, it was Su Senluo. What about next time? Kong Xinmu still had a trump card that he hadn't used yet, and that was to let Xiao Yuhua and the others gather their power and let Kong Xinmu devour it. Then, Kong Xinmu could directly attack and kill his opponent. Although they hadn't tried using it against an enemy, Kong Xinmu and the others had already tried it. This method was feasible. They just needed some time for Xiao Yuhua and the others to gather their power and let Kong Xinmu devour it. When they were dealing with Su Senluo just now, they didn't have enough time. So they didn't use this move. But if they were evenly matched, Kong Xinmu and the others could use this move to finish off their opponent faster. Of course, this time, Kong Xinmu used the sky-imprisoning demon pearl. This thing was a desolate god demonic weapon filled with demon chi. Xiao Yuhua and the others were a little surprised, but they didn't ask much. They knew that Kong Xinmu definitely had his own secrets. They didn't even understand the most basic ability, the devouring power. Kong Xinmu didn't explain much. He had gone to the demon god battlefield to collect the various cultivation resources that Xueqi had given him, but he had gone alone. No one else knew. The 5 quietly returned to Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy office and found Linghu Dai. When they told Linghu Dai about Su Senluo, she almost couldn't believe it. Su Senluo was a top genius of the void human race. She didn't expect him to come to the battlefield of the Dragon Martial Continent. What was even more unexpected was that he had been killed by Kong Xinmu and the others. This was a great contribution. It should be known that in that chaotic battlefield, there were some forbidden areas that restricted one's cultivation level. In other words, only cultivators below a certain level could enter. Therefore, experts of the same level who could challenge those of a higher level were extremely welcome. When one's level was restricted, the stronger one was, the more benefits one could obtain in those forbidden areas. Su Senluo represented the void human race. He had obtained many benefits in many forbidden areas that restricted those below the 5th level of the Emperor level. He had even killed many geniuses of other races. That was why he was famous. Linghu Dai had heard of his name. This meant that Su Senluo should be invincible below the 5th level of the Emperor level. But now, he had been killed by Kong Xinmu and the others? This was too unbelievable. Moreover, Xiao Yuhua and the rest also said that Jiang Xinwu had basically completed this battle by himself. Of course, he had used Ling Yun's protective ring. This dragon weapon could only be used again after 7 days. However, in the end, Jiang Xinwu still killed Su Senluo. Jiang Xinwu, on the other hand, could only stay inside for the next 7 days. The enemy couldn't possibly attack the martial dragon fortress. If not for Ling Yun's ring, Kong Xinmu would not have been able to withstand Su Senluo's attack. The destructive power of that foe god's judgment was too strong. It even twisted and shattered space. It was extremely tyrannical. If Jiang Xinwu relied on his own defensive abilities, he might really be crushed by that move. After all, Susan Luo had used the Heaven Oasis Heavenly Disc to activate the Void God's judgment. It had reached the ultimate destructive power. Other than Ling Yun's ring, almost no cultivator below the 5th level of the Emperor level could withstand this move. It was unbelievable that such an expert had been killed by Kong Xinmu. Logically, even if Kong Xinmu and the others could withstand one move from Susan Luo, they shouldn't have been able to kill him. How could an ordinary person have the strength to use a killing move after barely resisting one move? Even if he used a killing move, Su Senluo's defense was not weak. It was a pity that Kong Xinmu had the Heavenly Demon Pearl. Furthermore, the Heavenly Demon Pearl had been activated by the Demon God Ancestor. It was earth-shattering and could seal all of Su Senluo's power. He couldn't use any power, so how could he use any defensive techniques? Therefore, this matter was a foregone conclusion. For the Void Human tribe, this was a great loss. For the other major tribes, it was a great blessing. Because once Susan Luo grew up, he didn't need to grow too strong. As long as he reached the level of a super dragon god, he would be able to affect the overall situation. He could even raise the overall strength of the Void Human tribe to another level. And now, Susan Luo had died in the Dragon Martial Continent. He didn't even know who killed him. One could imagine how furious the Void Human tribe would be. Moreover, they would even speculate whether it was an expert above the Emperor level from another tribe who had taken action. Just to get rid of Susan Luo? But they didn't have any evidence, and they couldn't guess who killed Susan Luo. Perhaps only the higher-ups of the ancient Phoenix clan knew about this matter. This was because Kong Xinmu wanted to use Su Senluo's Spirit Hollow Pill to exchange with the ancient Phoenix clan. Killing Susan Luo would be a great achievement. Ling Hu Dai took the Spirit Hollow Pill and went to report to the ancient Phoenix clan. As for Kong Xinmu and the others, they rested in the office. Of course, they didn't have time to rest at all. They were in the process of cultivating bitterly. Cultivating dragon martial techniques required time. Raising one's cultivation level required time. Breaking through the grade of the Divine Dragon Inheritance Blood Essence also required time. Therefore, they didn't have any time to rest. They had to seize every minute and second to increase their strength. It wasn't just Kong Xinmu and the others. The entire Martial Dragon Fortress was basically in the same environment and atmosphere. Therefore, the strength of the dragon martial artists in the Dragon Martial Continent could be said to be increasing rapidly. Compared to before, the number of martial artists in the Dragon Martial Continent had more than doubled. This was mainly due to external pressure. Of course, there was also the supply of external cultivation resources. Otherwise, even Kong Xinmu wouldn't have been able to raise his current level in such a short period of time. Kong Xinmu and the others were cultivating in seclusion. The Wind Shadow Flowing Cloud Flash had already been cultivated to the Dragon rank and was about to break through to the Heaven rank. It was only a step away. As for the Divine Dragon Tyrant Body Art, it had been cultivated to the peak of the Heaven rank. However, it would still take a long time to cultivate to the Sage rank. Kong Xinmu had already taken the Rising Dragon Marrow. However, he didn't have enough comprehension. He still lacked many other precious treasures. Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy couldn't provide them. Therefore, he could only give up. Chapter 46-21. In the entire Dragon Martial Continent, there were only a handful of people who knew the strength of Kong Xinmu's group of 5. Ling Hu Dai was one of them, and so was the Dean of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy, Yu Yaji. But apart from the two of them, even the other Dragon Emperor instructors of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy did not know about the recent achievements of Kong Xinmu's group. In the past 6 months, Kong Xinmu's group had grown stronger, and their achievements were remarkable. They had even exchanged for 3 high-grade Divine Spirit Dragon martial techniques. As for killing Susan Luo, that was even more amazing. Every time Kong Xinmu's group attacked or entered the Dragon Martial Fortress, they used the Black Concealing Dragonstone to conceal themselves. Therefore, Xiao Bai had not shown up. It seemed that someone had come to ask Kong Xinmu about this. Unfortunately, Kong Xinmu's own whereabouts were uncertain. If he was not in seclusion, he would be using the Black Concealing Dragonstone to hunt the people of the 9 great clans. How could anyone have the chance to see Kong Shinmu? Kong Shinmu had heard that the evil prince had been looking for him, Xiao Bai, and the others. Unfortunately, he had not been able to do so. Kong Shinmu did not know if he had given up or not. Of course, regardless of whether the evil prince had given up or not, Kong Shinmu could not be bothered to deal with him. He had to quickly improve his own strength, and then amaze the world at the academy tournament. Finally, he would shine in the academy exchange. Only then could he save the entire dragon martial continent. Ling Hu died, or had been gone for many days. Kong Shinmu also knew that the ancient Phoenix clan would probably have to discuss what reward they should give them, so he was not in a hurry. The five of them cultivated the dragon martial technique in the courtyard of Emperor Xi's Dragon Martial Academy office. They also used some defense points to exchange for some natural treasures that contained the energy of the dragon mark. From there, they absorbed the dragon mark energy, and the quality of their inherited blood essence became even stronger. In the Dragon Martial Fortress, in a restaurant built by Dragon Emperor powerhouses, several students of Donghuang Yonggu College were chatting here. They had just hunted down 3 clansmen of Star God clan and gained a lot of defense points. They were now celebrating. Their leader was Lord Long, who was the first in the Divine Center area of Donghuang Yonggu College. In other words, he was the first in the academy tournament of Donghuang Yonggu College half a year ago. In other words, those who were stronger than him had already become Dragon Emperor Mentor. Below Dragon Emperor Mentor, he was number 1. It was because Yu Tiangshang, Emperor Qin, and more than a dozen other people had already become mentors of Dragon Emperor. Otherwise, Lord Long would not have had this opportunity, or even the chance to be the first in the Divine Center area. But now, he was used to being the first in the Divine Center area. His combat capability was solid. Dragon Emperor's blood essence was at the 4th level, and he was at the 7th level of the Reincarnation Tribulation realm. These 2 aspects were not the key. The key was that he had practiced the primary Holy Dragon martial skill, which had reached the peak of the Heaven level and was on the way to the Saint level. He also had an Earth level Holy Dragon weapon. He had already reached 70% to 80% compatibility with the Holy Dragon weapon and could exert 70% to 80% of its power. The combination of the 2 made Lord Long's explosive power extremely strong. There was another person he liked, and that was Qin Xiaoya, a female student of Donghuang Yonggu College. He had liked Qin Xiaoya for a long time, but he was no match for her in the past. It was only after the war between the 9 races that he got more opportunities than Qin Xiaoya with his adventurous spirit. Of course, Lord Long himself had also narrowly escaped death several times. He was almost killed on the battlefield and never came back. Because of this, Lord Long valued his current achievements more. He felt that there was no one in the 4 dragon and martial arts academies who dared to risk their lives and had good luck like him. Among the students in the Divine Center area of the 4 dragon and martial arts academies, Lord Long was the first. In this case, he was qualified to pursue Qin Xiaoya, wasn't he? Unfortunately, what he couldn't believe was that Qin Xiaoya actually looked down on him and tactfully rejected his pursuit. How could he endure this? The most important thing was that Qin Xiaoya appreciated Kong Shinmu a lot. Lord Long didn't have any feelings for Kong Shinmu at first, but this matter made him have a problem with Kong Shinmu. He had wanted to find Kong Shinmu several times to fight with him, but he never saw Kong Shinmu. Just yesterday, he wanted to find Kong Shinmu again. Unfortunately, Kong Shinmu had just come back and was in closed-door training, so he didn't see Kong Shinmu in the office of Emperor Xi's Dragon and Martial Arts Academy. In this case, Lord Long could only ask people to inform Kong Shinmu when they saw him. He didn't have so much time to wait for him. Kong Shinmu still hasn't shown up. How many months has it been? Since the collusion with the Fu Shui tribe last time, Kong Shinmu hasn't shown up many times. I heard that he has always been on the battlefield between the 9 races, but we haven't seen him on the battlefield. Nonsense, the battlefield of our Donghuang Yonggu College is not on the battlefield between the Fu Shui tribe, the Demon God tribe, and the Virtual Human tribe. Of course we can't see him. Lin Shuang, tell us, what do you think Kong Shinmu and the others are doing now? Lord Long finally turned his eyes to Lin Shuang in the field. Lin Shuang was handsome and elegant. Looking at Lord Long's sturdy body, he felt a little disdainful, thinking, how could Qin Xiaoya like you? But on the surface, Lin Shuang still respected and even worshipped Lord Long. When his own team fell apart, he joined Lord Long's team, and now he was the vanguard of Lord Long's team. Because he had cultivated the dragon detection technique, his eyes were very good, and he could often foresee the coming danger. So Lin Xuang was now an indispensable member of Lord Long's team. As for the two surviving members who followed him before, they were directly abandoned by Lin Xuang. Everyone in Lord Long's team was an expert in the Divine Center area. There were 7 of them in total, and Lin Xuang had finally become the 8th member. How could he bring 2 more members with him? Lord Long would never accept them. They were just here to be bystanders. They were useless. Even if they only got 1% of the protection points for each mission, Lord Long wouldn't want them, because they couldn't play even 1% of the role. Lord Long asked Lin Xuang, "What do you think Kong Shinmu and the others are doing now?" Lin Xuang wasn't familiar with Kong Shinmu, but he had been in action with Lin Yuji and the others before, so he could make some guesses. So he said, "Kong Shinmu is good at hiding when we saw him before. We can't see him, so it's very likely that he's deliberately hiding." So why is he hiding? With him around, there shouldn't be anything to hide in Dragon Martial Fortress. So we guess, every time he goes in and out of Dragon Martial Fortress, is he bringing something that can't be seen, or is it someone who can't be seen? Chapter 46-22. Kong Shinmu had indeed brought Xiaobai with him. Xiaobai had been trapped by the evil prince's Crimson Rose Seal. Later, Xiaobai had disappeared, but his Crimson Rose Seal had appeared on the battlefield of the virtual human tribe and killed 2 geniuses of the virtual human tribe. Therefore, the evil prince had been troubled. The virtual human tribe had repeatedly pressured the demon god tribe to hand over the evil prince. However, the evil prince was not the murderer, and the 2 tribes had almost fought. After signing the agreement, they had taken a break. Recently, the evil prince had been searching for the real murderer of the virtual human tribe. The only clue he had was Xiaobai. However, he had not been able to find Xiaobai. Once Xiaobai had appeared in the Longwu fortress, the evil prince would have received the news and rushed over to attack Xiaobai. Therefore, even when Liang Xiao and Donghuang Yongwu College's Bianfeng and Chou Jingyun had fought outside the office of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy, Xiaobai had hidden and had not shown herself. Of course, she had followed Xiao Yuhua and Liang Xiao. However, she had also used the black concealing dragonstone's power to hide. Therefore, Xiaobai had not appeared in the Longwu fortress in the past 6 months. Only Linghu Dai and Yu Yaji knew about Xiaobai's existence. Even the other Dragon Emperor instructors of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy did not know about it. This was the secret of Xiaobai. Now, in this restaurant, Lin Xuang had actually said that Kong Shinmu was hiding something. She was quite smart. Previously, when Kong Shinmu had helped them, they had not seen Xiaobai. When they broke free and found that they were still alive, Kong Shinmu and the others had already killed the 3 Fu Shui clansmen, and Xiaobai had hidden herself. How could they see Xiaobai? Therefore, Xiaobai's existence was also a secret to Lin Xuang and the others. Then what is Kong Shinmu hiding? Lord Long's face darkened. Let's go and find out if there are any newcomers from the Dragon Emperor's court joining our Donghuang Yongwu College. The Yen Dragon Emperor dynasty was the Dragon Emperor kingdom where Kong Shinmu lived. Of course, anyone who paid a little attention to Kong Shinmu would know this. Therefore, Lord Long wanted to investigate and see if there were any students from Dragon Emperor Yan's side. What was the point of investigating the people of the Yen Dragon Emperor dynasty? To threaten Kong Shinmu, of course. As everyone knew, Kong Shinmu came from the Yen Dragon Emperor dynasty and had a good relationship with the Dragon Emperor. Naturally, he would be very concerned about the people from the Yen Dragon Emperor dynasty. Hearing Lord Long's words, Lin Xuang smiled gently. Lord Long, there's no need to investigate. I've already done it in advance. There are not many geniuses from the Yen Dragon Emperor dynasty, but because of the recent enrollment expansion of Dragon Martial Arts College, 3 new students have joined our Donghuang Yongwu College. One of them is called Jiang Liuxue. Her surname is also Jiang. Isn't it a coincidence? The other 2 are a pair of sisters called Shi Yueying and Shi Yutong. They are both first-class beauties in the world. It's said that they are related to Kong Shinmu. That's understandable. After all, Kong Shinmu came from the Yen Dragon Emperor dynasty. The top geniuses of the Yen Dragon Emperor dynasty are related to him. I don't think Kong Shinmu knows about this, because these 3 girls have just joined Donghuang Yongwu College and are still cultivating there. They are not qualified to come to Longwu Fortress. Lin Shuang said a lot, and everyone looked at him with admiration. Boy, you've done a thorough investigation. It seems that you care a lot about Kong Xinmu. Lord Long laughed. Of course he was happy now. He had been coveting Qin Xiaoye for a long time. She was his idol and dream lover before he rose to power. Now that he had risen to power, Qin Xiaoye still didn't like him, which made him feel depressed. Since Qin Xiaoye liked Kong Xinmu, as long as he defeated Kong Xinmu, he would naturally get Qin Xiaoye's favor, wouldn't he? Now that Kong Xinmu was in seclusion, he had no chance to fight with Kong Xinmu, so he had to start from other aspects. Then let's go back to the college first, find Jiang Liuxue and the sisters, and see how they are doing. Lord Long got up and left the restaurant with his people. Of course, Kong Xinmu didn't know that Jiang Liuxue and the Shi sisters had joined Donghuang Yanggu College at this time. He didn't know that someone like Lord Long was targeting him in Donghuang Yanggu College. Of course, Lord Long couldn't threaten Jiang Liuxue and the Shi sisters. After all, in Donghuang Yanggu College, even if Lord Long was the top student in the Divine Center District, he couldn't do anything to the three girls. They just wanted to get some information about Kong Xinmu from Jiang Liuxue and the Shi sisters. Unfortunately, Kong Xinmu hadn't returned to Dragon Emperor Yan for a long time. Of course, they didn't know how Kong Xinmu was doing. Lord Long wanted to ask about Kong Xinmu, but they wanted to know more than Lord Long. Unfortunately, they were not strong enough, so they could only stay in Donghuang Yanggu College and couldn't go to Longwu Fortress. 7 days and 7 nights after Kong Xinmu killed Susan Luo, Ling Hu Dai finally came back. This time, she brought back good news. Kong Xinmu, based on your performance this time, Emperor Shi Dragon God has agreed to let you leave Longwu continent and go to the macro world of dragon gods for training and training. Ling Hu Dai's eyes were full of admiration. It should be known that if the students of the 4 dragon martial academies wanted to be qualified to go to the macro world of dragon gods for training, they had to reach the level of Super Shenron. If they didn't reach the level of Super Shenron, they wouldn't be able to enter the eyes of the Supreme Shenron. But now, Kong Xinmu was only at the 3rd level of Dragon Emperor Divine Dragon's inheritance, and he had gotten such an opportunity. His performance was so good that even Emperor Shi Dragon God was tempted. With Ling Hu Dai's aptitude, she would be given priority to train in the Dragon God's world. However, she was still far from being qualified to be nurtured. At the very least, she would have to wait until she reached the level of Super Dragon. Although she was only 1 step away, she had yet to make a breakthrough. There was still a huge gap between them. What? Kong Xinmu was shocked by this news. Leave Longwu continent and go to the macro world of dragon gods for training? If it was in the past, he would have fought hard for this opportunity. But now, the whole Longwu continent was in danger. How could he leave Longwu continent alone? Wouldn't that be leaving all his friends and family here to be enslaved? So, Kong Xinmu was shocked at first. Then he frowned and looked at Ling Hu Dai. Mentor Ling Hu, if I leave Longwu continent, won't I leave it here to die? I don't want to leave now. Chapter 46-23. Seeing Kong Xinmu's resolute attitude, Ling Hu Dai smiled and did not try to persuade Kong Xinmu. Instead, she continued to talk about another topic. This is the 2nd good news. The crisis of the Dragon God's macro world has basically been resolved by half. The Supreme Divine Dragons will soon be able to come and protect the Martial Dragon continent. Kong Xinmu, I have to say that it is because you killed Susan Luo that the Supreme Divine Dragons chose to protect the Martial Dragon continent. Even if the crisis of the Dragon God's macro world has been resolved by half, the number of Supreme Divine Dragons is still not enough. There are dozens of small worlds similar to the Martial Dragon continent, and they can only choose some to protect. Now, they have decided to protect the Martial Dragon continent first. This news was truly good news for Kong Xinmu. When he heard this news, Kong Xinmu could not believe it. Because he killed Susan Luo, the Martial Dragon continent's 9 races battlefield was going to be closed. This was simply unexpected. Jiang Shenwu really didn't understand Susan Luo's status. Susan Luo could be said to be the most outstanding person in the younger generation of the Void Human tribe. He was an outstanding talent and a top genius of the tribe. But he had been killed in the Martial Dragon continent. Didn't this mean that there was someone more talented than Susan Luo among the younger generation of dragon martial artists in the martial dragon continent? How could they let the martial dragon continent fall? Hurry! Hurry up and liberate the martial dragon continent. Let the supreme divine dragons come and solve the problem. As for the genius dragon martial artist who killed Susan Luo, recruit him to the dragon god's macro world for training. At this point, the dragon god's decision had been made. The crisis of the martial dragon continent had been completely resolved. Jiang Xinwu had even thought that he would have to wait until the 4 Great Academies grand competition and the end of the exchange before he could show his worth. He hadn't expected that he would be able to resolve the martial dragon continent's crisis so smoothly. For Kong Xinmu, this was, of course, great news. This meant that he didn't have to stay on this side of the martial dragon continent. He could go to the dragon god's great world. He believed that there would be more opportunities for him to grow faster in that great world. Now that the martial dragon continent's crisis had been resolved, it was a good thing for him. He no longer had to worry about the future. However, Kong Xinmu narrowed his eyes and thought for a moment. How could this matter be so coincidental? He had just killed Susan Luo, and the supreme divine dragons of the great world of the dragon gods were free to deal with the problem of the martial dragon continent. What a coincidence! It was so coincidental that Kong Xinmu couldn't believe it. Hence, he thought about it and thought of a possibility. Could this be the case? There were many small worlds under the great world of the dragon gods. They could have chosen to protect some of them, but the original dragon martial continent's overall strength was too weak, and it could not become the target of the supreme divine dragon's protection. It didn't mean that all the small worlds could not be protected. The supreme divine dragons might have chosen other small worlds to protect, but they just gave up on the martial dragon continent. Now that Kong Xinmu had killed Susan Luo and proved his strength and talent, the martial dragon continent would stand out. At the same time, Kong Xinmu also wondered which unlucky small world had lost the qualification to be protected by the supreme divine dragons because of the rise of the martial dragon continent. He didn't know. But in short, the situation of the martial dragon continent should have become better. Of course, the bet between the 9 races will continue, and they will not withdraw for the time being, Ling Hu Dyer said with a smile. This situation is good for both sides. The 9 races can use our battlefield to train their soldiers, and the casualty rate is much lower than on the chaotic battlefield. We can also take back the cultivation resources that belong to us from the 9 races, such as the divine dragon marrow, some holy dragon weapons and so on. Kong Xinmu understood this quite well. In the end, whichever of the 9 races won would be able to suppress the other races. It would be very good in terms of reputation, and there might be some substantial rewards in the agreement. The original reward was the right to enslave the martial dragon continent. But now that the supreme divine dragons had expressed that they wanted to protect the martial dragon continent, this reward would definitely be cancelled. As for what other reward it would be, it was hard to say. In short, the crisis of the martial dragon continent had been resolved, and Kong Xinmu was qualified to go to the great world of the dragon gods to cultivate. But the battle between the 9 races would continue, and he wanted to see if there were more geniuses emerging under the pressure. The news that the martial dragon continent was safe should not be released to others, but Kong Xinmu felt that this was normal. I can go to the great world of the dragon gods to cultivate, but can I bring my friends? Kong Xinmu said after thinking for a moment. Ling Hu Dai pursed her lips and smiled. I already guessed that you would make such a request. Emperor, she said that you can bring your friends, but you can only bring one of them. Kong Xinmu suddenly scratched his head. If he could only bring one, then things would be a little difficult. Generally speaking, Ran would definitely be brought along, but if there was only one spot, then Kong Xinmu could only leave with Xiao Bai. Although the martial dragon continent was safe now, Kong Xinmu knew that the previous hatred still existed. Their team had killed 2 geniuses of the void human race, and now they had killed Susan Luo. Once Xiao Bai appeared, both the void human race and the evil prince of the demon god race would be interested in investigating. Once the matter broke out, Xiao Bai and the others would be in danger. To be safe, it was better to bring Xiao Bai with them. Kong Xinmu decided to leave the black concealing dragonstone to Xiao Yuhua and let her lead the team. He would bring Xiao Bai with him. Without Kong Xinmu, their team's soul and backbone would be gone. However, the 3 of them were still very strong. Even if they couldn't defeat someone like Susan Luo, They would be fine as long as they didn't go to the battlefield of the void human race in the future. The battlefield of the water race and the demon god race wouldn't have such a top genius. Therefore, as long as they had the black concealing dragon stone, they would be relatively safe. They could roam the battlefield and hunt some of the weaker clansmen to exchange for the cultivation resources they needed. Then I will bring Xiao Bai with me, said Kong Shinmu. Jiang Shenwu said. Then he asked, oh right, are the guardian points we obtained enough to exchange for 2 more high-grade divine spirit dragon martial techniques? Enough. Chapter 46-24. Kong Shinmu took the jade slip and saw that it recorded the rewards for his team for killing Su Sun Luo. First, he was qualified to go to the Dragon God's macro world to cultivate and train, and he could bring 1 member of his team with him. Because the cultivation resources in the Dragon God's macro world were very precious, even if 2 of them joined, it would have a great impact, so Kong Shinmu could only bring 1 of them at most. Second, each member of his team would get a certain number of guardian points. These guardian points could be exchanged for 3 advanced Holy Spirit Dragon martial arts techniques. This was the main reward. If Kong Shinmu planned to exchange for 2 advanced Holy Spirit Dragon martial arts techniques, the remaining guardian points would be left for Xiao Yuhua, Liang Xiao, and Ran Ran. Third, after Kong Shinmu went to the Dragon God's macro world, he could join the Holy Land of 5-Pole Mysterious Ice. This was a supreme holy land in the Dragon God's macro world. There was no specific information about the Holy Land of 5-Pole Mysterious Ice in the Jade Slip. However, Kong Shinmu felt that the Holy Land of 5-Pole Mysterious Ice was probably the place where the real ice power of 5-Pole Mysterious Ice had fallen in ancient times, forming a supreme holy land. This made Kong Shinmu think of Shi Yueying, who had the inheritance of the Ice Dragon. Before he left this time, he definitely had to go back and take a look. Now, Kong Shinmu's divine dragon inheritance blood had reached the 3rd level of the Dragon Emperor. The dragon mark energy in his body was much stronger than the Dragon King level. Therefore, if he saw Shi Yueying and the others again, he could transfer some dragon mark energy to them, at least so that they could step into the Dragon King level. If they reached the Dragon King level, they would at least be qualified to join the Dragon Martial Academy. Of course, Kong Shinmu did not know that the 3 of them had already joined the Dragon Martial Academy. However, Kong Shinmu hoped that they would join Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy, because the 3 of them were women, and they were more suitable to cultivate the dragon martial arts techniques of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. Moreover, the situation in Donghuang Yangwu College was a bit complicated, mainly because of the questionable character of Dean Zhou Xiaofeng. As long as the 3 women reached the Dragon King level, they would naturally have more ways to improve their cultivation after they entered the Dragon Martial Academy. For Kong Shinmu, this was to do something for them before he left. Now that the martial dragon continent was being invaded by 9 major races, it was both an opportunity and a challenge for the dragon warriors. Although it was dangerous, if they could overcome all the obstacles and burst out with power, their cultivation speed would definitely surpass any other time. When their strength reaches Yuhing District, we can ask Xiao Yuhua and the others to help us and bring the 3 of them out to hunt. Even if they only practice some auxiliary dragon martial skills, it's still pretty good. Kong Shinmu thought. The so-called auxiliary dragon martial skill was the detection dragon martial skill, the concealment dragon martial skill and so on. If the 3 girls were proficient in the auxiliary dragon martial skill, it would be quite useful in the battlefield of the 9 races. Thinking of Lin Shuang, Kong Shinmu's face darkened. He thought of Lin Yuji, Qin Fengyu, and Lu Hua. The 3 of them were still in danger. Of course, Yu Yaji had sent a message saying that they were fine, but they had been sent to the chaotic battlefield for training. This could be considered an opportunity. At that time, Zhou Xiaofeng only wanted to make them disappear and had no intention of killing them. After all, as the dean of Donghuang Yangwu College, how could he kill students from his own college? Even if he wanted to frame Kong Shinmu, he wouldn't do such a thing. Therefore, the 3 of them were sent to the chaotic battlefield. The Chaos Battlefield was not the same as the great world of the Dragon Gods. The Chaos Battlefield was a place where countless races fought each other. It was very dangerous, and even supreme divine dragons could die there. However, there were many ancient forbidden grounds in the Chaos Battlefield. It was a place full of opportunities, but many of them restricted the cultivation of those who could enter. Therefore, if Lin Yuji and the other 2 went to the Chaos Battlefield, they might not necessarily die. Instead, they might have opportunities. Anyway, they would not act on their own. After being sent to the Chaos battlefield, there would definitely be a dragon warrior squad of the Dragon God clan leading them. Otherwise, with their cultivation, it would be impossible for them to survive in the Chaos battlefield. Kong Shinmu was more interested in the Chaos battlefield. After all, he was not only cultivating the divine dragon inheritance of the dragon gods, but he was also cultivating the inheritance of the demon god race and the power of void inheritance of the void human race. These inheritances could not be exposed in the great world of the dragon gods. But in the Chaos battlefield, not only could he be exposed, but he could also disguise himself. Disguise as a cultivator of the void human race or a cultivator of the demon god race. These were all possible. As long as Kong Shinmu was willing, the inheritance aura in his body could completely cover his whole body. Whether he was a cultivator of the demon god race or the void human race, there would be no problem. Of course, it was impossible now. It would be impossible even in the great world of the dragon gods. Now, Kong Shinmu was looking forward to the 5 Extremes mysterious Ice Holy Land. He hoped that he would be able to obtain more cultivation resources there so that his cultivation speed would be faster. Every Supreme Holy Land has at least one Supreme Divine Dragon guarding it. Ling Hu Dai, introduced it to Kong Shinmu. The master of the 5 Extremes mysterious Ice Holy Land is a close friend of Emperor Shi. So, when you go there you can rest assured. Of course, remember not to cause trouble. The dragon warriors cultivating in the Holy Land are not to be trifled with. Yes, I understand. Kong Shinmu nodded. Of course. He could not be bothered to cause trouble. He did not even have time to cultivate, so how could he cause trouble? He only wanted to quickly increase his battle prowess. He needed to cultivate the dragon martial arts techniques, increase his cultivation realm, and make a breakthrough in the divine dragon inheritance blood essence. It was said that in the supreme holy land of the dragon god's great world, the dragon mark's energy was even denser than that of the 4 great dragon martial arts academies Dubhe district. This made Kong Shinmu yearn for it. If he went there, he might be able to quickly absorb the dragon mark's energy and increase his divine dragon inheritance blood essence. In addition to the above 3 rewards, there was one more thing. That was, the 3 people in Kong Shinmu's team would become the focus of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy in the future. As long as they were willing, they could have professional Dragon Emperor tutors to guide them, so that they would not go astray in their cultivation. No matter what kind of questions they had, these Dragon Emperor tutors would definitely provide them with the most professional answers. And these answers, it was very likely that they themselves did not know. For example, in regards to the cultivation and comprehension of some Dragon Martial Arts techniques, if there were no professional Dragon Emperor tutors to answer them, they might have to spend a long time to explore. Let them come out first. Let them choose the high-level Divine Spirit Dragon martial arts techniques first. Kong Shinmu said quickly. At this point, the 5 of them had all the high-level Divine Spirit Dragon martial arts techniques. Next, they only needed to cultivate properly. Dragon martial arts techniques of this level were very difficult to cultivate, but it was better than not cultivating at all. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.